Aslan Adnan, M.A. presents The Coconut Palm, Cocos nucifera, the Tree of Life, Thursday, 23 July 2026.
Aslan Adnan, M.A. presents Nutritional Composition of Coconut Food Products, Thursday, the 23rd of July 2026. Introduction. The coconut, Cocos nucifera, is one of the world's most remarkable tropical food plants. Every part of the fruit is utilized, from its refreshing water and tender young flesh to the mature kernel, fresh santan, coconut milk, coconut cream, desiccated coconut milk powder, and coconut oil. For countless generations, coconut has formed an integral part of the traditional diets of many tropical communities, where it has served not merely as a source of energy, but also as an important culinary ingredient and a valuable source of nutrients. Although these various coconut products originate from the same fruit, their nutritional compositions differ considerably. The stage of maturity, the method of processing, and the degree to which the original food matrix is preserved all influence their final nutritional characteristics. A young coconut, for example, differs substantially from a fully mature coconut, while fresh whole food santan differs markedly from coconut oil extracted from the same kernel. Understanding these differences requires looking beyond individual nutrients. Nutrition is not determined solely by the amounts of fat, protein, carbohydrate, or vitamins present in a food. Equally important is the physical structure in which those nutrients are naturally packaged. The degree of processing can profoundly influence digestion, absorption, satiety, and the overall nutritional value of a food. This chapter therefore examines the nutritional composition of the principal coconut food products from a whole food perspective. It explains the concept of the food matrix, introduces the chemistry of coconut lipids and medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, discusses the nutritional implications of processing, describes a practical method for preparing fresh whole food santan, and presents the macronutrient and micronutrient composition of the major coconut products. Throughout the discussion, emphasis is placed on understanding coconut as a complete food rather than merely a source of fat. The whole food principle. Foods are considerably more than the sum of their individual nutrients. Every natural food possesses a complex three-dimensional structure, commonly referred to as the food matrix, in which nutrients are embedded within plant cells, dietary fiber, proteins, and naturally occurring phytochemicals. This matrix influences how nutrients are released during digestion, how rapidly they are absorbed, and how they interact within the body. Whole foods therefore deliver nutrients in a balanced and integrated form that isolated extracts cannot fully replicate. Dietary fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and numerous phytochemicals work together, often producing physiological effects that cannot be predicted simply by analyzing each nutrient individually. The coconut provides an excellent illustration of this principle. In the mature kernel, fat exists within a natural plant structure, together with dietary fiber, protein, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidant compounds. During digestion, this intact matrix influences the rate at which nutrients become available and contributes to satiety while providing fermentable fiber for the beneficial microorganisms inhabiting the large intestine. By contrast, extracting coconut oil removes almost everything except the lipid fraction. Although the fatty acids themselves remain chemically similar, the surrounding food matrix is largely lost. Consequently, the nutritional characteristics of coconut oil differ substantially from those of whole coconut, despite both originating from the same fruit. Understanding coconut lipids. Lipids comprise a broad class of biological compounds that include fats and oils. In foods, the overwhelming majority of lipids occur as triglycerides, each consisting of one molecule of glycerol attached to 3 fatty acids. Fatty acids differ in 2 important respects: their degree of saturation and their chain length. Saturated fatty acids contain no carbon-carbon double bonds, whereas unsaturated fatty acids contain one or more double bonds. Chain length refers to the number of carbon atoms present within each fatty acid molecule. Fatty acids are generally classified as short chain, medium chain, long chain, or very long chain. These categories influence how fats are digested, absorbed, and metabolized. Medium-chain fatty acids are absorbed more rapidly than long-chain fatty acids, and are transported preferentially to the liver through the portal circulation, where they are readily utilized for energy. Coconut fat is unusual among plant foods because approximately 90% of its fatty acids are saturated. However, it should not be regarded as equivalent to purified commercial MCT oil. Coconut contains a mixture of fatty acids, the most abundant being lauric acid, C12-0, which typically constitutes approximately 45 to 52% of the total fatty acid content. Lauric acid occupies an intermediate metabolic position, sharing characteristics of both medium-chain and long-chain fatty acids. Consequently, coconut oil behaves differently from purified MCT oil, which consists primarily of caprylic C8 and capric C10 acids. Scientific evidence indicates that coconut fat raises both low-density lipoprotein, LDL cholesterol, and high-density lipoprotein, HDL cholesterol. Its physiological effects are therefore more nuanced than the simplistic claim that coconut fat is either entirely beneficial or entirely harmful. As with all foods, its health effects depend upon the quantity consumed, the food in which it is consumed, and the overall dietary pattern. Whole coconut versus coconut oil. One of the most important distinctions in coconut nutrition lies between the whole food and the isolated oil. Whole mature coconut contains fat together with dietary fiber, protein, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and numerous naturally occurring phytochemicals. These components exist within the natural cellular structure of the coconut, influencing both digestion and nutrient availability. By contrast, coconut oil is an extracted product consisting almost entirely of lipid. It provides approximately 860 to 900 kilocalories per 100 grams, making it one of the most energy-dense foods available. While the fatty acids themselves are not inherently different from those found in the original coconut, the extraction process removes virtually all dietary fiber, protein, water, and most micronutrients, leaving an almost pure source of fat. This distinction is important because the nutritional behavior of a whole food differs from that of an isolated extract. The dietary fiber naturally present in whole coconut contributes to satiety, supports a healthy gut microbiome, and forms part of the three-dimensional food matrix that moderates the release of nutrients during digestion. Extracting the oil removes this matrix and concentrates the energy into a much smaller volume. Virgin coconut oil generally retains more of the coconut's naturally occurring aroma and a greater proportion of its minor phenolic compounds than refined coconut oil. Refining, bleaching, and deodorizing improve stability, appearance, and flavor neutrality but reduce many of the minor compounds present in the fresh oil. Nevertheless, both virgin and refined coconut oils remain highly concentrated sources of dietary fat and should be viewed as culinary ingredients rather than whole foods. It is therefore not the lipid itself that fundamentally distinguishes whole coconut from coconut oil, but the removal of the surrounding food matrix and the resulting increase in energy density. Preparing whole food santan. Traditional preparation of fresh santan involves mixing freshly grated mature coconut with warm water before squeezing the mixture through a cloth or sieve. The extracted liquid is retained while the fiber-rich coconut pulp is discarded. The method described here adopts a different philosophy by retaining the entire edible portion of the coconut. Freshly grated mature coconut is placed into a high-speed blender together with approximately 400 milliliters of water for every 200 to 300 grams of grated coconut. Several ice cubes are added before blending. The mixture is then blended continuously for approximately 7 minutes until a smooth, thick, and creamy santan is produced. The addition of ice serves an important purpose. Prolonged high-speed blending generates considerable frictional heat, which may raise the temperature of the mixture. Cooling with ice helps minimize unnecessary heating, thereby helping to preserve heat-sensitive vitamins and naturally occurring phytochemicals while maintaining the fresh flavor of the coconut. Unlike the traditional squeezing method, this preparation is not strained. The dietary fiber does not dissolve, but becomes finely dispersed throughout the santan, producing a thicker and creamier product while retaining the edible fiber that would otherwise be discarded. Retaining this fiber offers several nutritional advantages. Dietary fiber contributes little metabolizable energy to humans, yet it provides an important food source for beneficial microorganisms inhabiting the large intestine. In addition, preserving the whole coconut tissue helps retain naturally occurring vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals that are associated with the original plant material. The resulting product therefore remains closer to the nutritional composition of the whole coconut than conventionally strained santan. Nutritional composition of coconut food products. Unless otherwise stated, all nutrient values presented in this chapter refer to 100 grams of edible portion. The values are approximate and may vary according to coconut variety, geographical origin, maturity, cultivation practices, and analytical methods. Mature coconut kernel, raw. The mature coconut kernel is the principal edible portion of the fully developed fruit and forms the basis of most coconut-derived food products. Typical composition per 100 grams. Energy, approximately 354 kilocalories. Water, approximately 47 grams. Protein, approximately 3.3 grams. Total fat, approximately 33.5 grams. Saturated fat, approximately 29.7 grams. Carbohydrate, approximately 15.2 grams. Dietary fiber, approximately 9.0 grams. It also provides useful amounts of potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese and iron, together with modest quantities of several B-group vitamins, vitamin C and vitamin E. Naturally occurring polyphenols and other antioxidant compounds are also present. The mature kernel is relatively energy-dense but remains a whole food whose nutrients are delivered within the natural coconut matrix. Young coconut flesh. Young coconut flesh differs substantially from the mature kernel. It contains considerably more water, much less fat, and a softer gelatinous texture. Typical composition per 100 grams includes approximately 80 to 90 kilocalories, 5 to 6 grams of fat, and substantially lower dietary fiber than mature coconut. Its higher water content makes it less energy-dense, while providing a refreshing texture that is well suited to desserts and beverages. Fresh santan. Fresh santan is produced by blending or extracting the mature kernel with water. Its nutritional composition depends largely upon the ratio of coconut to water and whether the fiber is retained or removed. Typical preparations provide approximately 200 to 280 kilocalories per 100 grams, together with 20 to 28 grams of fat, small amounts of protein and relatively little carbohydrate. Whole food santan prepared without straining retains a greater proportion of the original dietary fiber and associated plant compounds than conventionally strained santan. Coconut cream. Coconut cream is a more concentrated preparation containing less water and more fat than ordinary santan. Typical values are approximately 330 kilocalories and 33 to 35 grams of fat per 100 grams. Its rich texture makes it particularly suitable for curries, desserts, and confectionery. Santan powder. Santan powder is produced by spray drying or freeze drying coconut milk, frequently with the addition of food-grade carrier ingredients to improve stability. Because water has been removed, the nutrients become highly concentrated. Typical values range from approximately 650 to 700 kilocalories per 100 grams, with 50 to 65 grams of fat, 5 to 11 grams of protein, and varying amounts of carbohydrate depending upon formulation. Although drying may reduce some heat-sensitive compounds, the product offers excellent convenience and storage stability. Comparative nutritional overview. Comparison of the principal coconut products clearly demonstrates the influence of maturity and processing. The mature kernel contains the greatest amount of naturally occurring dietary fiber while retaining the complete food matrix. Young coconut flesh contains the highest water content and the lowest energy density. Fresh santan occupies an intermediate position with its nutritional characteristics depending upon both dilution and whether the fiber has been retained. Coconut cream is considerably richer in fat than ordinary santan, while santan powder represents the most concentrated form of coconut milk because almost all of its water has been removed. Across all coconut products, lauric acid remains the predominant fatty acid, typically accounting for approximately 45 to 52% of total fatty acids, followed by myristic acid and smaller amounts of other saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. Nutritional interpretation. The nutritional differences among coconut products reflect both the maturity of the fruit and the degree of processing. Whole mature coconut and whole food santan provide the greatest retention of dietary fiber and naturally occurring nutrients. Coconut cream and santan powder offer greater concentrations of energy and fat because of their lower water content. Coconut oil is the most energy-dense product of all because it consists almost entirely of extracted fat. These differences do not imply that one product is universally superior to another. Rather, each product has nutritional characteristics that make it appropriate for particular culinary purposes. Whole food preparations generally provide greater satiety and preserve more of the coconut's naturally occurring nutritional complexity, whereas highly refined products serve more specialized culinary functions. Practical dietary considerations. For most people, whole coconut products should generally be preferred over isolated coconut oil because they retain dietary fiber, micronutrients, and the natural food matrix. Whole food santan, prepared without straining, represents one practical way of preserving these characteristics while producing a rich and versatile ingredient suitable for both savory and sweet dishes. Coconut oil and coconut cream remain valuable culinary ingredients but should be recognized as highly energy-dense foods. Their use is best guided by the overall composition of the diet rather than by exaggerated claims of either exceptional health benefits or exceptional harm. Coconut should therefore be regarded neither as a miracle food nor as a food to be feared. Like all foods, its nutritional value depends upon the form in which it is consumed, the quantity consumed, and the overall dietary pattern within which it is incorporated. Chapter Summary. Although all coconut food products originate from the same fruit, they differ substantially in nutritional composition because of differences in maturity and processing. The concept of the food matrix provides an important framework for understanding these differences. Whole coconut products retain dietary fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and naturally occurring phytochemicals within their original plant structure, whereas extracted oils consist almost entirely of concentrated fat. Coconut lipids are predominantly saturated, yet their physiological effects are more complex than is often portrayed. Coconut cannot be equated with purified MCT oil, and its nutritional effects should always be interpreted within the context of the whole food and the overall dietary pattern. Preparing fresh whole food santan by blending the entire grated coconut without straining preserves the edible fiber and more closely maintains the natural nutritional composition of the original kernel. This approach exemplifies the broader principle that preserving the integrity of whole foods generally retains more of their inherent nutritional value than isolating individual components. Ultimately, understanding coconut nutrition requires considering not merely the quantities of nutrients present, but also the form in which they are naturally packaged. The whole food, rather than any single nutrient in isolation, provides the most meaningful basis for evaluating its nutritional contribution to the human diet. Aslan Adnan, M.A., presents Culinary Uses of the Coconut Around the World, Main Dishes, Desserts and Beverages, Thursday the 23rd of July 2026. Introduction. The coconut palm, Cocos nucifera, often revered as the tree of life, is among the world's most remarkable and versatile food plants. Few crops have exerted such a profound influence on the culinary traditions of so many cultures across the tropical and subtropical world. Virtually every part of the coconut palm has been utilized for human benefit, but it is the fruit itself, with its tender water, nutritious flesh, rich milk and cream, aromatic oil, sweet sap, sugar and flour that has secured the coconut's enduring place in the world's great cuisines. Botanical, archaeological, and genetic evidence indicates that the coconut originated in the central Indo-Pacific region, where it was domesticated thousands of years ago by Austronesian peoples inhabiting island Southeast Asia. Skilled seafarers carried coconuts aboard their outrigger canoes as they colonized the islands of the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, establishing the coconut palm wherever climatic conditions permitted. Separate populations subsequently spread naturally along ocean currents and were further disseminated during the era of European maritime exploration, eventually becoming established throughout tropical Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. Today, the coconut has become a truly global food crop, whose culinary significance extends far beyond its original homeland. The coconut's extraordinary versatility has enabled it to become deeply embedded in local food cultures. Coconut milk and cream impart richness and body to curries, soups, and stews. Freshly grated coconut adds texture and sweetness to savory dishes and desserts. Coconut oil serves both as a cooking medium and a flavoring ingredient. Tender coconut water provides natural hydration, while the sap of the coconut inflorescence is consumed fresh as nira or fermented into toddy and other traditional beverages. Coconut sugar, flour, and vinegar further expand its culinary repertoire, making the coconut one of the few food plants whose products can be found in virtually every course of a meal. This chapter examines the diverse culinary applications of the coconut across the world's major geographical regions, illustrating how different societies have adapted a common ingredient to suit their local ingredients, cultural traditions, and culinary philosophies. Part 1. South Asia. South Asia represents one of the oldest and richest centers of coconut cookery. Throughout the coastal regions of India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and the Maldives, the coconut is not merely an ingredient but a culinary cornerstone that shapes regional identities and traditional foodways. Coconut milk forms the foundation of countless curries, providing richness to seafood dishes such as Goan fish curry, Kerala fish moli, and numerous Sri Lankan fish curries. Vegetable preparations, including Kerala's celebrated avial, rely on freshly ground coconut to impart both flavor and texture, while lentil dishes frequently incorporate grated coconut or coconut milk to create a mellow, creamy consistency. Rice is similarly transformed through the addition of coconut, whether in the fragrant Thengai Sadam of southern India or the iconic Kiribath or milk rice of Sri Lanka. Freshly grated coconut also features prominently in condiments such as coconut chutney and the fiery Sri Lankan pol sambal, while the Maldives is renowned for mashuni, a breakfast dish combining grated coconut with smoked tuna, onions and chilies. South Asian desserts reveal the coconut's remarkable versatility in confectionery. Coconut milk enriches traditional rice puddings such as payasam and kheer, while grated coconut forms the basis of numerous sweets including ladis, barfi and halwa. Sweet appams, jaggery-filled coconut pastries and festive confections are enjoyed throughout the region. Among the finest examples is Sri Lanka's celebrated watalapan, a delicately spiced coconut custard prepared with jaggery, eggs and fragrant spices. The coconut also occupies an important place in traditional beverages. Tender coconut water is valued throughout the region as a naturally refreshing drink, while fresh coconut sap known as nira is consumed before fermentation. Once naturally fermented, the sap becomes toddy, a traditional alcoholic beverage that has been enjoyed for centuries in many coastal communities. Coconut milk likewise forms the basis of festive drinks served during religious and cultural celebrations. Part 2. Southeast Asia. Nowhere has the coconut been embraced with greater creativity than in Southeast Asia. Across Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Brunei and the Philippines, coconut serves as an indispensable ingredient in cuisines renowned for their bold flavors, aromatic herbs and complex spice combinations. Coconut milk lies at the heart of many of the region's most celebrated dishes. Malaysian and Indonesian curries derive their luxurious texture from coconut milk, while Thailand's green, red, yellow and massaman curries exemplify the harmonious balance between coconut richness and aromatic spices. Indonesia's famous rendang, often regarded as one of the world's greatest beef dishes, is slowly simmered in coconut milk until the liquid evaporates and the meat becomes intensely flavored. Nasi lemak, Malaysia's national dish, centers upon rice cooked in coconut milk and pandan leaves, while laksa combines coconut broth with noodles, seafood and aromatic herbs. Filipino cuisine offers numerous ginataan dishes, in which vegetables, seafood or meat are gently simmered in coconut milk until tender. Southeast Asian desserts display extraordinary diversity. Colorful kui and kue, steamed cakes, sticky rice desserts, coconut custards, bibingka, buko delicacies made from young coconut, sendal, ice kacang and coconut ice cream demonstrate the ingredients' adaptability across an impressive range of sweet preparations. The region also boasts a wide variety of coconut beverages, including fresh coconut water, coconut shakes, smoothies, coconut milk drinks, and traditional beverages prepared from fresh or fermented coconut sap. Part 3. East Asia. Although coconut is less prominent in East Asian cuisines than elsewhere in Asia, it occupies an important place in the culinary traditions of southern China, Hainan, Taiwan, and the Ryukyu Islands. In Hainan, coconut milk is incorporated into rice dishes, soups and poultry preparations, while southern Chinese cuisine features nourishing coconut chicken soups and hot pots. Coconut lends subtle sweetness and richness without overwhelming delicate flavors, making it particularly suited to lighter styles of cookery. East Asian desserts have enthusiastically embraced coconut. Coconut puddings, coconut jelly, mango sago with coconut milk, steamed buns with coconut fillings, mooncakes and coconut-flavored mochi illustrate the successful integration of tropical ingredients into traditional East Asian confectionery. Modern beverage culture has further expanded coconut's popularity through coconut teas, bubble tea variations, smoothies and innovative dessert beverages that combine traditional flavors with contemporary presentation. Part 4. The Pacific Islands, Oceania. Throughout Polynesia, Micronesia and Melanesia, the coconut is inseparable from everyday life. For countless island communities, it has long provided food, drink and essential nourishment, earning its reputation as the true tree of life. Freshly extracted coconut cream accompanies fish, shellfish, taro, breadfruit and yams in numerous traditional dishes. Fiji's kokoda, consisting of raw fish marinated in citrus juice and finished with coconut cream, exemplifies the elegance of Pacific Island cuisine. Palusami, prepared from taro leaves enveloping coconut cream, is another regional classic, while earth oven cooking techniques infuse coconut-flavored dishes with distinctive smoky aromas. Desserts are generally simple, relying upon fresh coconut, tropical fruits and natural sweetness. Coconut puddings, baked cakes, and fruit desserts reflect the region's emphasis on fresh, minimally processed ingredients. Tender coconut water remains the preferred daily beverage, while coconut milk drinks and ceremonial beverages prepared from coconut sap continue to play important roles in cultural and religious traditions. Part 5. The Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula. Although the coconut is not indigenous to much of the Middle East, centuries of maritime trade across the Indian Ocean introduced it into the cuisines of Oman, Yemen, and the Arabian Gulf. Coconut milk enriches rice dishes, seafood stews, and aromatic curries, particularly in coastal communities with long-standing trading connections to India and East Africa. Date-filled pastries, coconut confections, and halva variations illustrate the successful incorporation of coconut into regional desserts. Today, coconut water, coconut milk beverages, and smoothies have become increasingly popular alongside traditional drinks. Part 6. East Africa. The Swahili coast, stretching from southern Somalia through Kenya and Tanzania to northern Mozambique, represents one of Africa's richest coconut culinary traditions. Coconut milk enriches fragrant rice dishes, seafood curries, fish stews, and vegetable preparations, reflecting centuries of cultural exchange between Africa, Arabia, and South Asia. Coconut accompanies staples such as ugali and cassava, while local spices create distinctive regional flavors. Traditional desserts include coconut cakes, cassava sweets, biscuits, and fruit-based confections, while fresh coconut water and coconut milk beverages provide welcome refreshment in the tropical climate. Part 7. West and Central Africa. Across the tropical coastal regions of West and Central Africa, coconut contributes both flavor and nutrition to everyday meals. Seafood stews, chicken dishes, rice preparations, and vegetable recipes frequently incorporate coconut milk or freshly grated coconut. Sweet preparations include coconut candies, cakes, and biscuits, reflecting local adaptations of both indigenous and colonial culinary traditions. Fresh coconut water remains a popular natural beverage throughout the region. Part 8. The Caribbean. Few regions have embraced the coconut with greater enthusiasm than the Caribbean, where African, indigenous, European, and Asian culinary traditions have merged to produce vibrant Creole cuisines. Jamaica's famous rundown gently cooks fish in richly seasoned coconut milk until the sauce thickens into an intensely flavored gravy. Coconut also enriches Trinidadian curries, rice and peas, seafood stews, and variations of callaloo throughout the Caribbean islands. Desserts include coconut drops, toto cake, coconut tarts, sweetbreads, fudge, coconut ice cream, and numerous festive pastries. Traditional and contemporary beverages range from fresh coconut water and coconut punch to smoothies, coconut milk drinks, and rum-based cocktails featuring coconut. Part 9. Central and South America. Throughout tropical Latin America, coconut has become an indispensable component of coastal cuisine. Brazil's celebrated moqueca showcases seafood gently simmered in coconut milk with tomatoes, peppers, and palm oil, while Bahian cuisine employs coconut extensively in seafood and vegetable dishes. Colombian coconut rice, Ecuadorian seafood stews, Peruvian coastal specialities, and numerous Amazonian recipes further demonstrate the ingredient's regional importance. Popular desserts include cocadas, quindim, coconut flans, cakes, and coconut-inspired brigadeiros. Coconut also appears in batidas, fruit smoothies, and refreshing tropical beverages. Part 10. North America. In North America, particularly Hawaii and the continental United States, coconut has evolved from an imported tropical curiosity into a mainstream culinary ingredient. Traditional Hawaiian cuisine combines coconut with seafood, tropical fruits, and taro, while contemporary chefs have incorporated coconut into fusion dishes, vegan curries, and innovative sauces. Coconut milk has become an essential ingredient in plant-based cookery, offering a versatile dairy alternative. Desserts such as coconut cream pie, coconut cake, macaroons, vegan cheesecakes, and coconut ice cream remain enduring favorites. Smoothies, protein beverages, coconut milk coffees, and functional drinks further illustrate coconut's growing popularity among health-conscious consumers. Part 11. Europe. Although coconuts were historically regarded as exotic imports in Europe, increasing globalization and the rapid growth of plant-based eating have transformed their culinary role. European chefs now employ coconut milk in curries, soups, and modern fusion cuisine, while coconut flour and coconut cream have become valuable ingredients in gluten-free and vegan cooking. Coconut also features prominently in cakes, biscuits, puddings, chocolates, confectionery, and premium ice creams. The popularity of coconut milk lattes, smoothies, plant-based beverages, and creative cocktails reflects its successful integration into contemporary European food culture. Part 12. Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand have embraced coconut through their multicultural populations and close culinary ties with Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. Coconut features prominently in seafood dishes, Asian-inspired curries, vegetarian cuisine, and modern cafe cooking. It also appears extensively in desserts such as coconut slices, pavlova variations, lamingtons, raw vegan cakes, and artisan ice creams. Fresh coconut water, smoothies, coconut coffees, and other functional beverages have become commonplace throughout both countries. Modern global trends, the rise of coconut in contemporary cuisine. In recent decades, the coconut has undergone a remarkable culinary renaissance. Increasing interest in plant-based diets, lactose-free alternatives, and minimally processed foods has elevated coconut from a traditional tropical ingredient to an internationally recognized functional food. Coconut milk, cream, yogurt, kefir, and plant-based cheeses now provide alternatives to dairy products, while coconut flour has gained popularity in gluten-free baking. Virgin coconut oil is widely used in both traditional and modern cooking, and coconut vinegar has attracted renewed interest as an artisanal fermented condiment. The growing popularity of smoothies, sports nutrition products, and functional beverages has further expanded the global market for coconut-based foods. Nutritional perspectives, culinary diversity, and nutritional value. The coconut contributes considerably more than flavor and texture. Its flesh provides dietary fiber, essential minerals, and health-promoting phytochemicals, while coconut water offers natural electrolytes that support hydration. Coconut also contains medium-chain triglycerides, which are metabolized differently from longer-chain fatty acids, together with lauric acid, a saturated fatty acid that has been investigated for its potential antimicrobial properties. Like all foods, coconut is best enjoyed as part of a varied, balanced dietary pattern. Used judiciously, it enhances both traditional recipes and contemporary culinary innovations, adding richness, aroma, and nutritional diversity without diminishing the importance of an overall healthy eating pattern. Conclusion: the culinary history of the coconut mirrors the history of human migration, maritime exploration, and cultural exchange. From the pioneering Austronesian navigators who carried coconuts across the Indian and Pacific Oceans thousands of years ago, to today's chefs developing innovative plant-based cuisine, the coconut has remained an indispensable companion to human civilization. Few ingredients possess such remarkable versatility. Whether enjoyed as refreshing coconut water, creamy coconut milk, fragrant oil, freshly grated flesh, sweet sap, or delicate flour, the coconut continues to nourish billions of people across every inhabited continent. Its ability to adapt to diverse culinary traditions while retaining its unique character explains why it has earned the enduring title of the Tree of Life. As global interest in sustainable, plant-based, and culturally diverse foods continues to grow, the coconut is certain to remain one of the world's most valued and celebrated culinary treasures. Aslan Adnan, M.A., presents Non-Food Uses of Cocos nucifera, Thursday the 23rd of July 2026. Introduction. The coconut palm, Cocos nucifera, often celebrated as the Tree of Life, has earned this distinction not merely because it provides food and drink, but because virtually every part of the tree serves valuable non-food purposes. Across the tropical world, the coconut has supplied building materials, medicines, cosmetics, household goods, textiles, fuel, agricultural inputs, and industrial raw materials for thousands of years. Long before the emergence of modern sustainability movements, traditional societies had already embraced a near-zero waste utilization of the coconut palm. The trunk became timber, the leaves became roofing and baskets, the husk became ropes and mattresses, the shell became utensils and charcoal, while the oil found applications in medicine, personal care, and lighting. Today, scientific research and industrial innovation have expanded these traditional applications into high-value products, ranging from pharmaceuticals and biomedical materials to activated carbon, biodegradable composites, horticultural substrates, cosmetics, and renewable biofuels. Coconut oil, understanding the different types. The term coconut oil encompasses several distinct products manufactured using different techniques. It is important to distinguish between conventional coconut oil and virgin coconut oil (VCO), as their production methods, chemical composition, and intended applications differ considerably. Conventional coconut oil. Conventional coconut oil is extracted from dried coconut kernel, known as copra. After harvesting, mature coconuts are split open and the white kernel is dried under the sun, in smoke kilns or mechanical dryers until the moisture content falls to approximately 6%. The dried copra is then mechanically pressed or solvent extracted to obtain crude coconut oil. Because the crude oil contains impurities, free fatty acids, pigments and odors, it is usually subjected to refining, bleaching and deodorization (RBD). The resulting refined coconut oil has a neutral color, odor and flavor and is widely used in industry. Refined coconut oil possesses excellent oxidative stability because it contains approximately 90% saturated fatty acids, predominantly lauric acid. This remarkable stability makes it suitable for soaps, detergents, lubricants, candles, cosmetics, and numerous industrial applications. Virgin coconut oil, VCO. Virgin coconut oil differs fundamentally from conventional coconut oil because it is extracted directly from fresh coconut meat without first producing copra. The extraction process avoids excessive heat and harsh chemical refining, thereby preserving many naturally occurring antioxidants, polyphenols, tocopherols, and volatile aromatic compounds. Virgin coconut oil has become one of the highest value coconut products due to its purity, pleasant aroma, and broad applications in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and premium personal care products. Several production methods are employed. Traditional fermentation method. This centuries-old technique begins by grating fresh mature coconut meat and extracting coconut milk. The milk is left undisturbed for 1 to 3 days. Natural enzymes and microorganisms gradually separate the oil from the water and protein layers. The oil floating on top is carefully collected, filtered, and stored. Although yields are relatively low, this method requires minimal equipment and remains common among rural communities throughout South and Southeast Asia. Natural gravity separation. Fresh coconut milk is allowed to stand without fermentation. Over time, the cream rises naturally, allowing the oil to separate under gravity. The oil is then skimmed and filtered. This method reduces microbial fermentation while maintaining relatively high product quality. Cold pressing. Fresh coconut kernel is mechanically pressed using specialized expellers operating at relatively low temperatures. Minimal heating preserves delicate bioactive compounds while producing a premium quality virgin coconut oil suitable for cosmetic and pharmaceutical use. Centrifugal extraction. Fresh coconut milk is subjected to high-speed centrifugation. The centrifugal force rapidly separates oil, water, and protein fractions according to their densities. Because the process requires little or no heating, the resulting oil exhibits excellent clarity, low moisture content, and extended shelf life. Many commercial manufacturers regard centrifugation as one of the most efficient techniques for producing pharmaceutical-grade VCO. Enzymatic extraction. Specific food-grade enzymes are introduced to break down proteins and cell walls surrounding oil droplets. The oil is then separated with minimal heating. Enzymatic extraction generally produces high yields while preserving sensitive phytochemicals. Chilling and freeze separation. Some premium producers employ controlled cooling to separate oil from coconut milk. As temperatures decrease, the oil naturally separates from the aqueous phase before filtration and bottling. Chemical characteristics. Both conventional coconut oil and VCO contain high concentrations of medium-chain fatty acids, particularly lauric acid, caprylic acid, and cupric acid. Virgin coconut oil generally retains higher concentrations of natural antioxidants, phenolic compounds, and vitamin E because it is not subjected to high-temperature refining. These naturally occurring compounds contribute to the oil's stability and make it particularly attractive for premium cosmetic formulations. Ayurveda and traditional medicine. For over 2 millennia, coconut oil has occupied an important position in Ayurveda, the traditional medical system of India. It is regarded as a cooling oil that calms excess pitta, heat, while nourishing the skin, scalp, and nervous system. Rather than being used alone, coconut oil frequently serves as the base oil for numerous medicated herbal preparations known collectively as Thailam or Thailam. These formulations combine coconut oil with carefully selected medicinal herbs, roots, flowers, and barks that are gently infused into the oil over many hours. Among the best-known coconut oil-based Ayurvedic oils is Neelabhringadi Thailam, perhaps the most famous preparation for scalp and hair care. It contains herbs such as bringraj, Eclipta alba, indigo, Indigofera tinctoria, amla, Phyllanthus emblica, and licorice. Traditionally, it is massaged into the scalp to nourish hair follicles, reduce premature graying, alleviate dandruff, and promote healthy hair growth. Bringamalakadi Tailam is another classical hair oil combining bringraj and Indian gooseberry. It is valued for strengthening hair roots, cooling the scalp, and maintaining healthy hair pigmentation. Ksheerabala Tailam, prepared from coconut oil together with bala, Pseudocordifolia, and milk, is widely employed in therapeutic head massage, Shiro Abhyanga, and whole-body massage, Abhyanga. Ayurvedic practitioners prescribe it for neurological disorders, muscle weakness, insomnia, anxiety, and recovery after stroke. Dhanwantaram Tailam is one of Ayurveda's most respected massage oils. Although sesame oil is often used as its primary base, regional formulations in Kerala frequently incorporate coconut oil. Rich in numerous medicinal herbs, it is extensively used for prenatal and postnatal massage, musculoskeletal disorders, rehabilitation, and sports injuries. Karparadi Tailam, containing natural camphor dissolved in coconut oil, is applied externally to relieve muscle pain, joint stiffness, sprains, and congestion. The cooling effect of coconut oil complements the counter-irritant properties of camphor. Murivana Tailam, originating from Kerala, is formulated using coconut oil infused with herbs such as aloe vera, betel leaf, and moringa. It is traditionally applied to wounds, fractures, ligament injuries, bruises, and inflammation, and remains widely used in Ayurvedic orthopedic practice. Iladi Tailam is primarily a dermatological preparation. It contains aromatic herbs including cardamom, cinnamon, and sandalwood infused into coconut oil. It is applied to the face and skin to improve complexion, relieve itching, and soothe inflammatory skin conditions. For facial massage, coconut oil-based formulations are appreciated for their excellent skin compatibility, moisturizing properties, and ability to reduce transepidermal water loss. Gentle massage of the face and scalp also forms part of traditional Ayurvedic daily self-care, dinacharya, promoting relaxation, improving circulation, and maintaining healthy skin. Cosmetics and personal care. Virgin coconut oil has become a major ingredient in the global cosmetics industry. It functions as an emollient, moisturizer, skin protectant, and carrier oil for essential oils. It is incorporated into facial creams, body lotions, lip balms, sunscreens, massage oils, baby products, shaving creams, bath oils, and anti-aging formulations. Hair care products represent one of its largest markets. Coconut oil penetrates the hair shaft more effectively than many vegetable oils, reducing protein loss during washing and improving hair strength. Consequently, it appears in shampoos, conditioners, leave-in treatments, hair serums, and scalp tonics. Soap manufacturers have long valued coconut oil because of its exceptionally high lauric acid content. Sodium laurate produces hard soaps with abundant, stable lather even in seawater or hard water. Pharmaceutical applications. Modern pharmaceutical research has expanded the medical applications of coconut-derived products. Virgin coconut oil serves as an excipient and carrier for topical medications, transdermal formulations, and herbal extracts. It is also incorporated into ointments, creams, and medicated balms. Medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, purified from coconut oil, have become valuable pharmaceutical ingredients because they are rapidly absorbed and metabolized. MCTs function as carriers for fat-soluble drugs, nutritional supplements, and specialized medical nutrition products. Researchers are also investigating coconut-derived lipids as components of nanocarriers, liposomes, and lipid nanoparticles for advanced drug delivery systems. Industrial applications. Coconut oil serves as an important renewable industrial feedstock. Its fatty acids undergo chemical modification to produce surfactants, detergents, lubricants, hydraulic fluids, plasticizers, resins, synthetic rubber additives, textile processing chemicals, and biodegradable solvents. Fatty alcohols derived from coconut oil constitute essential raw materials in shampoos, toothpaste, household cleaning products, and industrial detergents. Coconut methyl esters also contribute to biodiesel production, offering a renewable alternative to petroleum-derived diesel fuel. Coconut shell. The coconut shell possesses exceptional hardness due to its highly lignified structure. Traditionally, shells have been fashioned into bowls, ladles, cups, spoons, musical instruments, decorative carvings, and jewelry. Industrially, coconut shells represent one of the world's finest raw materials for activated carbon. High-temperature carbonization followed by activation creates an extremely porous material capable of absorbing gases, organic chemicals, and heavy metals. Activated carbon derived from coconut shells is widely employed in municipal water treatment, air purification systems, gas masks, pharmaceutical purification, gold recovery, aquarium filtration, and industrial wastewater treatment. Activated carbon from coconut shells. Among all non-food products derived from Cocos nucifera, activated carbon produced from coconut shell is arguably the most technologically sophisticated and economically valuable. Coconut shell is considered one of the world's premier raw materials for activated carbon because it is exceptionally hard, dense, and rich in lignin, properties that enable the production of a carbon material with very high mechanical strength and an extremely well-developed pore structure. What is activated carbon? Activated carbon, often called activated charcoal, is a form of carbon that has been specially processed to create an enormous internal surface area. The word activated does not mean that the carbon is chemically energized. It refers to the development of a highly porous structure capable of absorbing molecules onto its surface. Ordinary charcoal is simply carbonized organic material. Activated carbon, by contrast, contains millions of microscopic pores that dramatically increase its available surface area. 1 gram of high-quality coconut shell activated carbon may possess a surface area of 800 to 1,500 square meters, roughly equivalent to several tennis courts compressed into a teaspoon of powder. This enormous surface area is the key to its remarkable adsorptive capacity. Adsorption versus absorption. Activated carbon works primarily through adsorption, not absorption. In absorption, a substance penetrates into the bulk of another material, as water is absorbed by a sponge. In adsorption, molecules adhere to the surface of a material. Activated carbon captures contaminants because they become attached to the walls of its microscopic pores through van der Waals forces, hydrophobic interactions, and other surface phenomena. This distinction is fundamental. The effectiveness of activated carbon depends not on how much material it can soak up, but on how much surface area is available for contaminants to attach to. Step 1. Carbonization. The production of activated carbon begins with carbonization. Cleaned coconut shells are heated in the absence of oxygen, typically at temperatures of 400 to 700 degrees Celsius. Because oxygen is excluded, the shells do not burn. Instead, volatile compounds such as water vapor, methane, hydrogen, and various organic vapors are driven off. What remains is a hard, carbon-rich material known as char or carbonized coconut shell. At this stage, the material is still not activated. Although it contains some pores, most are closed or poorly developed, and its adsorptive capacity is relatively limited. Step 2. Activation. Activation is the critical step that transforms ordinary char into activated carbon. 2 principal methods are used. Physical activation. In physical activation, the carbonized shell is heated to approximately 800 to 1000 degrees Celsius while steam, carbon dioxide, or a combination of both is passed through it. The hot gases react with portions of the carbon according to reactions such as C plus hydrogen oxide right, pointing arrow CO plus H2, C plus CO2, right pointing arrow to CO. These reactions selectively remove carbon atoms from the internal structure, enlarging existing pores and creating new ones. The process resembles microscopic etching, gradually opening an intricate network of channels throughout the carbon particle. Steam activation is particularly common for coconut shell carbon because it produces a highly microporous structure ideal for water purification and air treatment. Chemical activation. In chemical activation, the raw material is impregnated with activating agents such as phosphoric acid, potassium hydroxide, zinc chloride, or other chemicals before heating. The chemicals dehydrate the biomass and promote pore formation at lower temperatures, typically 400 to 700 degrees Celsius. After activation, the product must be thoroughly washed to remove residual chemicals. Chemical activation is widely used for wood and agricultural residues, but coconut shell activated carbon intended for drinking water and pharmaceutical applications is more commonly produced by steam activation because it avoids residual chemical concerns. How activation changes the material. The transformation from carbonized shell to activated carbon is profound. Ordinary coconut shell char is relatively dense, has a modest surface area, and contains many inaccessible pores. Activated carbon has a vastly greater surface area, a highly interconnected pore network, lower bulk density, and dramatically higher adsorptive capacity. The difference is not merely quantitative, but qualitative. Non-activated charcoal may remove some color and odor compounds, but activated carbon can efficiently remove dissolved organic contaminants, chlorine, pesticides, volatile organic compounds, and many other molecules present at very low concentrations. The importance of pore size. Not all activated carbons are the same. Their performance depends heavily on pore size distribution. Micropores, less than 2 nanometers, provide most of the surface area and are particularly effective for small molecules such as chlorine, solvents, and many dissolved organic compounds. Mesopores, 2 to 50 nanometers, are important for larger molecules such as dyes and humic substances. Macropores, greater than 50 nanometers, act mainly as transport channels that allow contaminants to reach the smaller adsorption sites deeper within the particle. Coconut shell activated carbon is especially valued for its exceptionally high micropore content, which makes it highly effective for purifying drinking water and treating gases. Why coconut shell is superior? Compared with wood, peat, or coal, coconut shell offers several advantages. It has high hardness and abrasion resistance, so the particles generate less dust during handling. It possesses a naturally high lignin content, which yields a strong carbon matrix after activation. It produces a high proportion of micropores, and can be sourced from an agricultural byproduct that would otherwise have relatively low economic value. These characteristics explain why many premium water filters specifically use coconut shell activated carbon. Water treatment applications. Water purification is the largest application. Activated carbon removes chlorine and chloramine, unpleasant tastes and odors, pesticide residues, industrial organic contaminants, trihalomethane precursors, pharmaceuticals and personal care product residues, and many volatile organic compounds. Municipal water plants often use large beds of granular activated carbon, GAC, while household filters use cartridges containing granular or powdered activated carbon. Air and gas purification. Activated carbon is equally important in air treatment. It is used in respirator cartridges and gas masks, indoor air purifiers, solvent recovery systems, industrial exhaust treatment, refrigerator and automotive cabin filters, and odor control systems in wastewater facilities. Because gases diffuse rapidly into the micropores, activated carbon can capture many volatile organic compounds that would otherwise remain in the air. Pharmaceutical and medical uses. Medical-grade activated carbon has a long history in toxicology. In emergency medicine, it may be administered orally after certain poisonings to absorb drugs and toxins in the gastrointestinal tract before they are absorbed into the bloodstream. Activated carbon is also used in pharmaceutical manufacturing for decolorization and purification of solutions, removal of trace impurities, purification of antibiotics and vitamins, and treatment of processed water. Food and beverage processing. Although this article focuses on non-food uses, it is worth noting that activated carbon is extensively used as a processing aid in the food and beverage industry. It is employed for sugar decolorization, purification of alcoholic beverages, removal of off flavors, and clarification of various liquid products. Environmental remediation. One of the fastest growing applications is environmental cleanup. Activated carbon is used to treat contaminated groundwater, industrial wastewater, landfill leachate, petroleum spills, and soil contaminated with organic pollutants. In many remediation systems, contaminated water is passed through activated carbon columns, after which the spent carbon can often be regenerated and reused. Regeneration. A major advantage of activated carbon is that it is not necessarily a single-use material. Spent activated carbon can be thermally regenerated by heating it in specialized furnaces at high temperatures under controlled conditions. Adsorbed contaminants are driven off or destroyed, and much of the pore structure is restored. This ability to regenerate the material significantly improves its economic and environmental performance. Conclusion: activated carbon derived from coconut shell is far more than ordinary charcoal. Through controlled carbonization followed by activation, a dense agricultural byproduct is transformed into an advanced porous material possessing an immense internal surface area and extraordinary adsorptive power. The activation process creates a microscopic architecture that gives activated carbon properties fundamentally different from those of non-activated carbon. vastly greater surface area, a highly developed pore network, and the ability to remove contaminants present at extremely low concentrations. These unique characteristics have made coconut shell-activated carbon indispensable in water purification, air treatment, medicine, pharmaceuticals, environmental remediation, and numerous industrial processes, illustrating how a traditional tropical crop has become a critical material in modern public health and environmental technology. Coconut husk and coir. Ground coconut shell is also incorporated into brake linings, automotive clutch facings, abrasive materials, and composite engineering plastics. The fibrous husk surrounding the nut yields coir, one of the world's most durable natural fibers. For centuries, coir has been spun into ropes, fishing nets, brushes, floor mats, mattresses, and erosion control blankets. Modern horticulture has transformed coconut coir into a premium growing medium. Coir retains moisture exceptionally well while maintaining excellent aeration, making it ideal for greenhouse cultivation, hydroponics, mushroom production, and nursery propagation. Compressed coir blocks are exported globally as sustainable alternatives to peat moss, reducing pressure on fragile peatland ecosystems. Coconut leaves. Coconut leaves continue to serve rural communities throughout the tropics. They are woven into roofing thatch, baskets, hats, fans, sleeping mats, containers, and ceremonial decorations. The leaf midribs provide material for brooms, while the leaflets are employed in traditional handicrafts and festive ornaments. Coconut timber. Old coconut palms that have completed their productive life can be converted into coconut timber, commonly known as coconut wood or cocoa wood. Its attractive grain has made it increasingly popular for furniture, flooring, interior paneling, decorative veneers, and architectural applications. Using senescent palms as timber reduces pressure on tropical hardwood forests while generating additional income for coconut farmers. Sap and biomaterials. Although coconut sap is best known as a food product, its sugars also serve as feedstocks for fermentation industries producing bioethanol, organic acids, and biodegradable chemicals. Researchers are exploring coconut-derived cellulose, lignin, and fibers for biodegradable packaging, sustainable composites, biomedical scaffolds, wound dressings, and tissue engineering. Nanocellulose extracted from coconut fibers shows promise in advanced materials due to its remarkable strength, lightweight, and biodegradability. Renewable energy. Nearly every component of the coconut palm contributes to renewable energy production. Shells and husks serve as biomass fuels for electricity generation and industrial boilers. Pyrolysis converts coconut biomass into biochar, bio-oil, and combustible gases. Biochar simultaneously improves soil fertility while sequestering atmospheric carbon, contributing to climate change mitigation. Environmental applications. Coconut-derived materials are increasingly replacing petroleum-based products. Coir geotextiles stabilize slopes, prevent soil erosion, and facilitate ecological restoration. Activated carbon purifies drinking water and industrial effluents, while biodegradable coconut fiber composites reduce dependence on synthetic plastics. The coconut palm therefore represents one of the most sustainable crops in the tropical world, providing renewable materials with minimal waste and relatively low environmental impact. Future prospects. Advances in biotechnology, green chemistry, and materials science continue to uncover new applications for Cocos nucifera. Researchers are developing biodegradable polymers, nanocomposites, biomedical implants, advanced filtration systems, renewable chemicals, and high-performance engineering materials derived from coconut biomass. As the global economy shifts towards renewable resources and circular manufacturing, the coconut palm is poised to play an increasingly important role in sustainable development. Conclusion. The non-food uses of Cocos nucifera demonstrate why the coconut palm has long been revered as the tree of life. From ancient Ayurvedic medicine and traditional craftsmanship to modern pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, and renewable industrial materials, virtually every component of the palm possesses economic and practical value. What was once regarded primarily as an agricultural crop has evolved into a versatile industrial resource supporting medicine, cosmetics, engineering, environmental protection, and sustainable manufacturing. As demand grows for renewable, biodegradable, and environmentally responsible materials, the coconut palm will remain one of humanity's most valuable botanical resources, continuing a legacy of usefulness that spans millennia.
Aslan Adnan, MA presents Coconut Cultivation Around the World.
Wednesday, 22nd July, 2026. The coconut, Cocos nucifera, often described as the tree of life, is among the world's most versatile and economically important perennial crops. Every part of the palm has practical value, making it indispensable to the livelihoods of millions of people across the tropical world. From fresh drinking water and nutritious kernel to edible oil, coir fiber, timber, charcoal, biofuel, and handicrafts, virtually every component of the coconut palm is utilized. This chapter provides a comprehensive overview of global coconut cultivation, examining the crop's geographical distribution, major producing countries, agronomic requirements, cultivation systems, nutrient management, environmental preferences, economic importance, sustainability challenges, and future prospects. Introduction. The coconut palm belongs to the family Ericaceae and is the sole species within the genus Cocos. It is a long-lived monocotyledonous palm capable of remaining productive for several decades, with some palms continuing to bear fruit for more than 70 years under favorable conditions. The fruit is botanically classified as a fibrous drupe. It consists of an outer exocarp, skin, a fibrous mesocarp, husk, and a hard endocarp, shell, enclosing the edible kernel and coconut water. This remarkable structure allows coconuts to float across oceans, facilitating natural dispersal over vast distances. For centuries, coconuts have sustained coastal communities throughout the tropics. They provide food, drink, shelter, medicine, fuel, construction materials, fiber, and income. Few other crop species possess such extraordinary versatility. Modern genetic research suggests that coconuts originated from two principal domestication centers, one centered around the Indian Ocean and the other in the Pacific Ocean, with Southeast Asia, particularly the Malay Archipelago, playing a pivotal role in their evolution and dispersal. Human migration, maritime trade, and natural ocean currents subsequently spread coconuts throughout the tropical belt. Today, coconuts are cultivated in more than 90 countries, supporting the livelihoods of tens of millions of smallholder farmers and generating substantial economic activity in the food, beverage, cosmetics, pharmaceutical, renewable materials, and bioenergy industries. Rising consumer demand for coconut water, virgin coconut oil, plant-based foods, and natural cosmetic ingredients has further strengthened the global coconut economy. Major coconut-producing countries. Global coconut production typically ranges between 60 and 65 million metric tons of whole nuts annually, although production fluctuates according to climatic conditions, pest outbreaks, tree age, and management practices. More than 80% of global production is concentrated in tropical Asia, making the region the undisputed center of the world's coconut industry. The leading producers are approximately as follows. 1. Indonesia, approximately 17 to 18 million metric tons annually, making it the world's largest producer. Production is dominated by millions of smallholder farmers spread across the archipelago. 2. Philippines, approximately 14 to 15 million metric tons. The country remains one of the world's largest exporters of coconut oil, desiccated coconut, coconut milk products, and other processed coconut commodities. 3. India, approximately 13 to 15 million metric tons. Although much of its production is consumed domestically, India has achieved significant improvements in productivity through research, irrigation, and improved varieties. 4. Brazil, approximately 3 million metric tons, making it the largest producer in the Americas. 5. Vietnam, around 2 million metric tons, with an expanding processing sector. 6. Sri Lanka, approximately 2 million metric tons, where coconut remains an essential component of agriculture, cuisine, and exports. 7. Myanmar, approximately 1.3 million metric tons. 8. Papua New Guinea, approximately 1.2 million metric tons. 9. Mexico, approximately 1.1 million metric tons. 10. Thailand, approximately 1 million metric tons, followed closely by Malaysia, Ghana, Tanzania, Mozambique, and several Pacific Island nations. Although Asia overwhelmingly dominates production, significant coconut industries also exist throughout Latin America, the Caribbean, East Africa, West Africa, and Oceania. Many producing countries are actively replacing aging plantations with improved hybrids and promoting greater value addition through downstream processing. Geographical distribution and cultivation practices. Coconut palms are cultivated primarily between latitudes 20 degrees north and 20 degrees south, where climatic conditions remain consistently warm throughout the year. Major cultivation zones include Southeast Asia, southern India, Sri Lanka, the Pacific Islands, northern Australia, coastal East and West Africa, Brazil, Central America, the Caribbean, and parts of northern South America. Although coconuts are strongly associated with coastal environments, they are equally capable of thriving inland where rainfall, soil conditions, and temperatures remain favorable. Propagation begins with the careful selection of healthy seed nuts obtained from vigorous, high-yielding mother palms. Seedlings are raised in nurseries for 6 to 12 months before being transplanted into the field. 3 broad categories of cultivars are commonly grown. Tall varieties are hardy, long-lived, and generally cross-pollinating. Dwarf varieties begin fruiting earlier and are predominantly self-pollinating. Hybrid varieties combine desirable characteristics of both, including earlier bearing, higher yields, and improved disease resistance. Planting pits, typically measuring approximately 1 cubic meter, are prepared using fertile topsoil enriched with compost, farmyard manure, coconut husks, and other organic materials to improve moisture retention. Spacing generally ranges between 7.5 and 9 meters, resulting in approximately 100 to 150 palms per hectare, depending upon the planting geometry. Square, rectangular, triangular, and hedge planting systems are commonly employed according to local conditions. Routine plantation management includes weed control, mulching, irrigation during dry periods, pruning of dead fronds, and periodic nutrient application. Dwarf palms generally commence fruiting within 4 to 5 years, whereas tall varieties usually begin producing after 6 to 8 years. Productive life commonly extends beyond 50 years. Harvesting occurs throughout the year, usually every 6 to 8 weeks. Depending upon local traditions, harvesters climb the palms manually, use long harvesting poles, or employ mechanical climbing devices. Following harvest, coconuts may be marketed fresh or processed into copra, coconut oil, virgin coconut oil, coconut milk, coconut cream, desiccated coconut, activated carbon, coir fiber, cocoa peat, shell charcoal, and numerous other value-added products. Cropping systems. Monoculture versus integrated farming. Traditional coconut cultivation frequently consists of monoculture plantations. However, because coconut canopies intercept only a portion of available sunlight, substantial amounts of land remain underutilized. The relatively shallow root system occupies mainly the upper 25 to 60 centimeters of soil within approximately 2 meters of each palm, leaving considerable inter-row space suitable for additional crops. Intercropping therefore represents one of the most efficient approaches to increasing both land productivity and farm income. Young coconut plantations commonly support bananas, pineapples, vegetables, ginger, turmeric, cassava, sweet potatoes, maize, legumes, and groundnuts. Once plantations mature and shade increases, farmers frequently introduce shade-tolerant crops such as cocoa, coffee, black pepper, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, vanilla, and various medicinal plants. Coffee has proven particularly compatible with coconut. Robusta, Liberica, and Excelsa coffees thrive beneath partial coconut shade in countries including the Philippines, India, Indonesia, and several Latin American nations. The coconut canopy moderates temperature extremes while reducing moisture loss, whereas fertilization and weed management undertaken for coffee also benefit the coconut palms. Well-designed multi-story agroforestry systems combining coconut, coffee, cocoa, banana, spices, fruit trees, and nitrogen-fixing legumes significantly improve biodiversity, carbon sequestration, soil fertility, and long-term farm resilience. Integrated farming systems also distribute economic risk by providing farmers with multiple sources of income throughout the year rather than depending solely upon coconut production. Environmental requirements and preferred habitat. Coconut palms flourish in warm, humid tropical climates. Optimal mean annual temperatures are approximately 27 degrees Celsius, while temperatures below 20 degrees Celsius significantly reduce growth. Frost is invariably fatal. Ideal annual rainfall ranges between 1,500 and 2,500 millimeters, evenly distributed throughout the year. Where rainfall is seasonal, irrigation becomes essential to maintain high productivity. The palms require abundant sunshine, high atmospheric humidity, and free air circulation. Mature palms tolerate strong coastal winds remarkably well, although prolonged drought, cyclones, and severe flooding can reduce yields substantially. The preferred soils are deep, well-drained sandy loams, coastal sands, alluvial soils, lateritic soils, and fertile red loams possessing good moisture holding capacity. Soil depth should ideally exceed 1.2 to 1.5 meters to permit unrestricted root development. Although coconuts tolerate a relatively broad soil pH range of approximately 5.0 to 8.0, optimum performance generally occurs between pH 5.5 and 7.5. One of the coconut palm's most distinctive characteristics is its comparatively high tolerance of salinity, enabling successful cultivation near coastlines and in mildly brackish environments where many other crops perform poorly. Nutrient management and fertilization. The coconut palm has a high nutrient demand because it produces large quantities of fruit throughout the year. Potassium is the nutrient required in greatest quantity, followed by nitrogen and phosphorus. Secondary nutrients such as magnesium, sulfur, and chlorine are equally important, while micronutrients including boron, zinc, iron, manganese, and copper are essential for sustained productivity. In many tropical soils, particularly coastal sandy soils with low organic matter, nutrient deficiencies develop rapidly unless fertility is maintained through regular replenishment. Typical fertilizer recommendations for mature palms include approximately 500 grams of nitrogen, 320 grams of phosphorus pentoxide, and 1,200 grams of potassium oxide per palm annually, together with 20 to 50 kilograms of well-decomposed organic manure, such as farmyard manure, compost, vermicompost, or neem cake. Applications are generally divided into 2 or more doses, timed to coincide with the onset of seasonal rainfall. Modern coconut production increasingly adopts integrated nutrient management, combining mineral fertilizers with compost, green manures, cover crops, crop residue recycling, coconut husk incorporation, biofertilizers, and beneficial microorganisms. Regular soil testing and leaf tissue analysis enable nutrient applications to be tailored to local conditions, improving fertilizer efficiency while minimizing environmental impacts. Pests, diseases, and plantation management. Coconut plantations face numerous biological threats that require integrated management strategies. Major insect pests include the rhinoceros beetle, red palm weevil, black-headed caterpillar, slug caterpillar, and coconut scale insects. Common diseases include bud rot, stem bleeding, leaf blight, gray leaf spot, root wilt disease, lethal yellowing, and various phytoplasma-associated disorders. Integrated pest management combines sanitation, biological control agents, resistant varieties, pheromone traps, mechanical removal, and carefully targeted pesticide applications where necessary. Maintaining healthy, vigorous palms through balanced nutrition and good water management remains one of the most effective long-term disease prevention strategies. Economic importance and sustainability. The global coconut industry supports the livelihoods of more than 30 million people, the overwhelming majority of whom are smallholder farmers cultivating relatively modest land holdings. Beyond fresh nuts, coconuts generate income through an extensive range of processed products, including edible oils, virgin coconut oil, coconut milk, coconut flour, coconut sugar, activated carbon, shell charcoal, coir fiber, cocoa peat, geotextiles, furniture, construction materials, and renewable bio-based products. Many governments have implemented programs encouraging plantation rejuvenation, improved planting materials, irrigation development, mechanization, farmer training, and downstream processing to enhance competitiveness. Nevertheless, the industry faces significant challenges. Climate change is increasing the frequency of droughts, cyclones, storm surges, and sea level rise. Many plantations consist of aging palms with declining productivity, while labor shortages, fluctuating commodity prices, and increasing production costs continue to affect profitability. Future sustainability will depend upon climate-resilient varieties, precision agriculture, improved water use efficiency, integrated farming systems, digital technologies, mechanized harvesting, carbon-smart agriculture, and stronger value chains that increase returns to farmers while protecting natural ecosystems. Another conclusion. The coconut palm remains one of humanity's most valuable tropical crops. Its extraordinary adaptability, exceptional versatility, and immense economic importance have earned it the enduring title of the Tree of Life. When cultivated using scientifically sound agronomic practices, integrated nutrient management, diversified cropping systems, and sustainable environmental stewardship, coconut plantations can remain productive, profitable, and ecologically resilient for generations. Continued investment in research, breeding, climate adaptation, mechanization, and value-added processing will ensure that the coconut continues to play a central role in global food security, rural livelihoods, and sustainable tropical agriculture throughout the 21st century.
Aslan Adinan, MA presents The Coconut's Secret Journey, Origins and Genetics, Wednesday, 22 July 2026.
For generations, scientists believed they had pieced together the story of one of the world's most iconic tropical plants. Yet groundbreaking genetic evidence is rewriting that narrative. Ancient coconut DNA, analyzed through cutting-edge genomic techniques, now reveals an extraordinary saga stretching back thousands of years. A tale of survival against pounding waves and salt spray, human ingenuity on the high seas, and the quiet power of a single species to reshape landscapes, cuisines, and cultures across the globe. Imagine standing on a sun-drenched coastline in island Southeast Asia, where the air hums with the rustle of broad palm fronds and carries the sweet, earthy scent of fallen husks warming in the sand. From these vibrant shores to forgotten ancient trade routes etched across vast oceans, the coconut's true history proves far more complex and captivating than anyone once imagined. Where did coconuts really come from? How did their hard, buoyant fruits cross seemingly endless blue expanses to colonize distant shores? And what role did early civilizations play in their remarkable spread? Today, modern science, drawing on advanced genomics, archaeology, evolutionary biology, and linguistic clues, offers compelling answers that bridge deep time with the intimate rhythms of human adventure. Two ancient ocean basin lineages. For decades, the coconut, Cocos nucifera, seemed to possess a murky or scattered origin, its wild ancestors lost in the mists of prehistory, and its presence across so many tropical regions explained vaguely by buoyant fruits drifting lazily on ocean currents. DNA analyses of thousands of coconut accessions worldwide have brought clarity, identifying two major, highly distinct populations that tell a story of parallel journeys rather than a single, simple path. The Pacific group traces its roots to the lush islands and coasts of maritime Southeast Asia, particularly the rich biodiversity hotspots of the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Here, amid the humid embrace of tropical rains and the rhythmic crash of waves on coral shores, early peoples recognized the coconut's potential and shaped it through careful selection. This group displays unmistakable signs of domestication, the emergence of compact dwarf varieties, self-pollinating traits that ensure reliable harvests even in isolation, and the rounded neovi fruits optimized for human use, with a higher ratio of sweet, milky endosperm to tough, fibrous husk. Crack one open under the blazing sun, and the cool, refreshing liquid inside offers instant relief, while the tender white flesh delivers a subtle sweetness that has sustained generations. Austronesian seafarers, master navigators of the Neolithic era, carried these cultivated coconuts, including prized forms such as the compact Fiji dwarf, Niuleka, on their epic migrations across the vast Pacific in outrigger canoes laden with the promise of future groves. Genetic echoes even reached the Pacific coasts of the Americas long before European contact, preserved in ancient DNA signatures and subtle archaeological traces of early cultivation. In contrast, the Indo-Atlantic group emerged along the southern shores of the Indian subcontinent, including the palm-fringed beaches of Sri Lanka and the Maldives, where the air is thick with the briny tang of the sea and the distant calls of seabirds. Cultivated independently by ancient Dravidian societies, these coconuts, often tall, cross-pollinating types with larger, more angular fruits, became staples of coastal life, their swaying silhouettes dotting the landscape as they spread westwards. While they generally lack the full suite of refined domestication traits present in their Pacific counterparts, the existence of these two separate centers of early cultivation highlights a fascinating pattern. Humans independently recognized and nurtured the coconut in different ocean basins. Yet the Pacific Southeast Asian lineage ultimately became the dominant force behind its global success. its fruits traveling farther and influencing more lives. These genetic revelations gain even greater depth when woven together with archaeological finds, ancient texts, and linguistic evidence. Coconuts did not merely float passively across the seas. They rode the waves of human history as vital companions. For Austronesian voyagers slicing through turquoise waters, the palm provided crisp drinking water that stayed fresh for weeks, nourishing flesh that could be eaten raw or dried into travel rations, and strong fibers twisted into ropes and sails that whispered reliability with every gust of wind. Trade routes carried Pacific coconuts to Madagascar and the East African coast, where genetic admixture with local Indo-Atlantic populations still echoes those ancient exchanges in the mixed groves swaying under monsoon skies. Later, Arab merchants gliding along spice-laden winds, followed by European colonizers and the engines of global commerce, blended populations further, planting coconut groves that now fringe tropical shores from the Caribbean's turquoise bays to the warm currents of the Indian Ocean. The architecture of dwarfism. Hormone mutations. The transition from tall, wild-type palms soaring over 20 to 30 meters high to compact, early-bearing dwarf trees represents one of the most significant triumphs of ancient Southeast Asian selection. Understanding how a giant palm was transformed into a manageable, highly productive food source requires peering directly into the molecular mechanics of the plant's growth hormones, specifically the gibberellin, GA, pathway. Gibberellins are diterpenoid hormones that drive cell division and stem elongation. In tall coconuts, uninhibited gibberellin synthesis leads to long internodes, delayed flowering, often requiring 6 to 10 years or more, and massive vertical height. In dwarf varieties, mutations within this pathway interrupt normal stem elongation, yielding short internodes, a compact canopy, and precocious flowering within just 2 to 4 years of planting. Genomic sequencing of tall and dwarf cultivars has isolated 2 major regulatory hubs responsible for this morphological change. 1. GA20-oxio-X, biosynthetic gene regulation. The enzyme GA20 oxidase catalyzes the rate-limiting steps in producing bioactive gibberellin. Rather than a total knockout mutation, which would render the palm sterile or severely stunted, dwarf coconuts possess a refined set of quantitative genetic modifications. Copy number variation, CNV. Tall coconut genomes carry greater copy numbers of key GA20 genes, typically up to 5 functional copies, compared with dwarf genomes, which frequently carry only 3. This reduced gene dosage directly lowers the overall volume of synthesized growth hormone. Promoter single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs. High-throughput sequencing reveals a crucial single nucleotide change in the promoter region upstream of the GA20-OX gene on chromosome 12, locus GZ to G04578. This variation significantly suppresses promoter activity in dwarf tissues, lowering gene expression by anywhere from 1.3-fold to more than 12-fold compared with tall palms. CNGA20OX1 versus CNGA20OX2. While coding sequences for CNGA20OX1 are largely identical between tall and dwarf variants, expression levels of CNGA20OX1 in leaf and stem tissues are substantially higher in tall palms. CNGA20OX2 remains low or tissue-specific in both, indicating that regulation occurs primarily through promoter elements and gene dosage rather than structural protein disruption. 2. DELA signal repressors and growth regulators. Downstream of hormone synthesis lies the signaling mechanism governed by DELA proteins, such as CN-DELA1, and growth-regulating factors, such as CNGRF1. DELA proteins act as master negative regulators of growth. When gibberellin levels are high, DELA proteins are targeted for degradation, allowing the plant to grow tall. When gibberellin levels are low, DELA proteins accumulate and suppress growth. Targeted PacBio long-read sequencing across diverse coconut populations has revealed key genetic variants within CN-DELA1, including specific deletion patterns and diagnostic markers, such as MN-DELA1 score SNP1270 and MCN-GRF1 SCN672. These markers correlate strongly with the dwarf phenotype, modulating the palm's sensitivity to available gibberellins and reinforcing the compact growth habit. Together, reduced GA synthesis and altered DELA repressor dynamics create a balanced, highly productive dwarf tree. 2 distinct dwarf paradigms. As human migration and trade carried coconuts across different regions, selection pressures created distinct dwarf varieties suited to local environments and human needs. The Malayan dwarf of maritime Southeast Asia and the Chowgat green dwarf of southern India represent two of the most prominent, well-characterized dwarf varieties in modern agriculture. The Malayan dwarf, the Pacific paragon. Originating in the heart of the Pacific lineage in maritime Southeast Asia, the Malayan dwarf, occurring in distinct color forms, green, yellow, red, and golden, is a premier example of human-driven domestication. Driven by a mutation enabling strict autogamy, self-pollination due to overlapping male and female flowering phases, the Malayan dwarf achieved rapid genetic fixation. SSR marker studies show high levels of genetic uniformity within these color lines. The tree reaches a modest 4 to 10 meters, bearing vivid clusters of rounded, high endosperm fruits close to the ground. Aside from its early yield in sweet water, the Malayan dwarf gained global agricultural prominence because of its natural resistance to lethal yellowing disease, a phytoplasma disease that decimated tall coconut plantations across the Americas and the Caribbean. The Chowgat green dwarf, the Indian sentinel. Hailing from the Chavakad region of Kerala, India, the Chowgat green dwarf, CGD, alongside its orange variant, represents a parallel outcome within the Indo-Atlantic sphere. Reaching 4 to 5 meters in height and flowering within 3 to 4 years, CGD also exhibits nearly 100% self-pollination, resulting in remarkable phenotypic and genomic homogeneity across generations. Chromosome-level assemblies of the CGD genome, approximately 2.68 gigabytes, have revealed more than 300 resistance gene analogs, RGAs. Unlike the Malayan dwarf's reputation for lethal yellowing resistance, CGD was selected for its exceptional tolerance to root wilt disease, a devastating condition endemic to southern India. Its medium-sized, bright green nuts remain a staple for tender coconut consumption across the subcontinent. The coevolution of humanity and the tree of life. Despite centuries of movement, interplanting, and commercial hybridization, the genetic fingerprint of those original Southeast Asian domestications remains strikingly visible in coconut populations worldwide. This persistence underscores a profound truth. While the coconut is a marvel of natural adaptation, its buoyant, salt-tolerant fruits perfectly suited to coastal life, enduring sun-scorched beaches and storm-tossed seas, it is also a deeply human plant, co-evolved with the peoples who cherished its shade, sustenance, and versatility. More than the biography of a single species, the coconut story offers a window into the intricate interaction between humanity and the natural world. From the coastlines of island Southeast Asia, where its domestication first flourished amid the perfume of frangipani and the distant roll of thunder, the coconut has reached tables, economies, and ecosystems around the globe. Split open on a market stall, its aroma evokes distant islands. Pressed into oil, it lights lamps and soothes skin. Woven into daily life, it supports entire communities. Today, chromosome-level reference genomes, transcriptomic analyses, and marker-assisted selection allow breeders to pair the compact stature and disease resistance of Pacific dwarfs with the rugged vigor of ancient tall lineages. Whether through the lens of evolutionary genomics, archaeological discovery, or the simple pleasure of tasting cool coconut water on a parched tongue, Cocos nucifera stands as a living testament to how human curiosity and plant genetics intertwined to shape the tropical world.
Aslan Adnan, M.A., presents The Global Odyssey of the Coconut Palm, How Austronesian Mariners, Indian Ocean Traders and European Empires Carried Cocos nucifera Around the World. Friday, the 24th of July, 2026. Origins in the Indo-Pacific. The coconut palm, Cocos nucifera, is among humanity's most widely dispersed and economically significant plants. Today it grows throughout the humid tropics, from the islands of the Pacific to the shores of the Caribbean, from East Africa to the coasts of South America. This extraordinary distribution was not the result of a single process, but rather the cumulative outcome of natural oceanic dispersal working alongside successive waves of human migration, maritime commerce, and imperial expansion over several millennia. Modern genetic research has transformed our understanding of the coconut's origins and global spread. While coconuts are capable of floating across oceans, genetic evidence demonstrates that the overwhelming majority of their present-day distribution reflects deliberate transport by seafaring peoples rather than random ocean currents. Their worldwide journey mirrors the history of maritime civilization itself, linking Austronesian explorers, Indian Ocean merchants, Arab navigators, Portuguese caravels, and Spanish galleons into one continuous story. The primary center of origin and early diversification for Cocos nucifera lies within the central Indo-Pacific, an expansive maritime region encompassing island Southeast Asia and the adjoining archipelagos of Melanesia. The vast area stretching across present-day Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea and neighboring island groups possesses the greatest level of genetic diversity found in coconuts anywhere on Earth. In evolutionary biology, such concentrated genetic variation serves as the definitive hallmark of a species' ancestral homeland, confirming that primitive coconut palms evolved and diversified across these tropical archipelagos long before human populations began actively harvesting and transporting them across the open ocean. The two great genetic lineages, genetic studies and modern DNA fingerprinting have revealed that the global population of Cocos nucifera subsequently differentiated into two principal, highly distinct genetic lineages. The first of these, designated as the Pacific Group, originated in island Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific Basin. These palms exhibit structural and physiological characteristics heavily shaped by millennia of human selection and cultivation. Pacific coconuts frequently produce rounded fruits with relatively thin husks, high liquid endosperm volume, and a wide variety of semi-dwarf and dwarf cultivars specifically selected for ease of harvesting near human settlements. The second major lineage, known as the Indo-Atlantic group, developed further west along the margins of the Indian Ocean, particularly surrounding the Indian subcontinent, southern India and Sri Lanka. Indo-Atlantic palms generally grow much taller, feature stouter trunks, and produce more elongated triangular fruits encased in exceptionally thick fibrous husks. These wild-type traits conferred superior buoyancy and structural durability, making them well-suited to surviving marine transport. This group became the dominant coconut lineage across the Indian Ocean and was later carried by European maritime empires into the Atlantic basin. The historical application of molecular phylogeography and DNA fingerprinting since the late 20th century completely revolutionized botanical science, overturning many 19th century assumptions that viewed all global coconut populations as a single uniform species spread purely by natural currents. Genetic mapping proved that despite their distinct evolutionary trajectories, these two primary lineages remained fully interfertile. Wherever historical trade routes brought the Pacific and Indo-Atlantic groups into geographical contact, extensive interbreeding occurred, creating unique hybrid populations that preserve a genetic record of human maritime contact. Natural oceanic dispersal before human intervention. Long before organized maritime trade or human migration developed, the coconut palm possessed a remarkable evolutionary architecture tailored specifically for coastal survival and natural transoceanic travel. The mature fruit of Cocos nucifera is a specialized drupe possessing a thick, fibrous outer husk filled with air spaces, known as the exocarp and mesocarp, which surrounds a hard, impermeable inner shell or endocarp. This buoyant husk encloses a large supply of liquid endosperm or coconut water, which provides a vital reserve of moisture and nutrients for the developing embryo. This unique anatomy enabled wild coconuts to drop from coastal trees, survive prolonged immersion in salt water for weeks or even months at a time, and wash ashore on distant, uninhabited beaches with their internal embryos intact and ready to germinate in sandy, saline soils. Ocean currents undoubtedly enabled primitive coconuts to colonize nearby islands and emerging coral atolls naturally across short to medium distances within the Indo-Pacific basin. However, while natural ocean currents account for localized botanical establishment, natural dispersal alone cannot explain the structured genetic geographical patterns, the survival of fragile cultivated varieties, or the sudden emergence of coconut populations across vast oceanic barriers like the Eastern Pacific or the wide expanse of the Atlantic. The decisive factor in transforming the coconut from a localized Indo-Pacific coastal tree into a global agricultural commodity was deliberate human agency. The Austronesian expansion, circa 3500 BCE. The earliest great transoceanic expansion of the coconut palm coincided with one of the most extraordinary migration events in human history, the Austronesian expansion. Beginning around 3000 BCE from Taiwan, Austronesian-speaking seafaring communities migrated southwards through the Philippines and into the vast archipelagos of island Southeast Asia. These mariners developed revolutionary maritime technologies, including complex double-hulled vessels, outrigger canoes, woven crab-claw sails, and sophisticated open-ocean navigation systems based on ocean swells, wind patterns, and star paths, enabling them to cross thousands of kilometers of open ocean centuries ahead of similar seafaring achievements elsewhere in the world. By approximately 2000 BCE, Austronesian navigators had established permanent settlements across maritime Southeast Asia. Between roughly 1600 and 500 BCE, a distinct archaeological culture known as the Lapita movement emerged in eastern Melanesia. The Lapita people pushed the boundary of human settlement rapidly eastward into remote Oceania, reaching Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. Crucial to the survival of these voyagers was the Austronesian Transport Package, a carefully curated collection of domesticated plants and animals necessary to colonize barren or isolated island ecosystems. The coconut palm occupied a central position within this portable agricultural ecosystem. Early voyagers carefully selected seed nuts for maximum water content, thick flesh, and ease of germination, storing them safely in the holds of their outrigger vessels. The coconut provided an irreplaceable multi-purpose survival kit: sterile drinking water for long ocean voyages, high-calorie food, cooking oil, timber for structural building, palm leaves for thatched roofing, and fibrous husks that were processed into coir cordage, essential for lashing together the structural components of their ocean-going canoes. Every successful landfall across the vast Pacific expanse resulted in the immediate planting of coconut groves, permanently altering the ecology of Polynesia. The settlement of Madagascar and the western Indian Ocean, circa 500 BCE AD 200. Having successfully expanded eastwards across the Pacific, Austronesian navigators embarked upon a second, equally astonishing directional migration westwards across the full breadth of the Indian Ocean. From around 500 BCE onwards, these master mariners navigated westward, utilizing seasonal trade winds to traverse more than 6,000 kilometers of open water, eventually reaching the giant island of Madagascar off the southeastern coast of Africa. Comparative linguistics, biological anthropology, and modern human genetic studies have confirmed that the initial settlement of Madagascar was accomplished primarily by Austronesian voyagers whose closest direct linguistic relatives reside in southern Borneo, within the basin of the Barito River. Sailing in large outrigger vessels, these ancient navigators carried their traditional agricultural package across the ocean, including dryland rice, bananas, taro, yams, and substantial quantities of seed coconuts. The coconuts introduced into Madagascar by these early Austronesian settlers carried unmistakable Pacific genetic signatures. By the beginning of the Common Era, between the 1st century BCE and the 2nd century CE, established populations of Pacific-type coconut palms were flourishing along the eastern shores of Madagascar and throughout the nearby Comoro Islands. These early introductions established the first major Pacific coconut populations within the western Indian Ocean, marking one of the earliest long-distance, transoceanic transfers of a cultivated tree species in human history. Arab, Persian, and Indian Ocean trade, AD 60–1500. While Austronesian voyagers were establishing Pacific coconut varieties in the southwestern Indian Ocean, a parallel chapter in the history of the coconut was unfolding across the northern and western sectors of the Indian Ocean basin. Maritime commercial exchange connecting the Malabar coast of southern India, the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Horn of Africa had flourished for centuries prior to the Common Era. Early classical writers of the Mediterranean world were well aware of these flourishing Asian trade networks. The anonymous Greek merchant manual, known as the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, compiled around AD 60, explicitly details an active maritime trade network linking ports in Roman Egypt and the Red Sea, with the vibrant commercial emporia of Western India and the East African coastline, where coconuts were already traded as valuable commodities. During the first millennium CE, the process of Indianization across Southeast Asia further reinforced these commercial and botanical links. Expanding Hindu-Buddhist trading kingdoms like Srivijaya and Majapahit established sophisticated maritime networks that integrated Southeast Asian coconut production directly with Indian Ocean trade long before the arrival of Islamic networks. From the 7th century onwards, following the rise and rapid expansion of Islam, Arab, Persian, and Gujarati merchants dramatically expanded their maritime reach throughout the Indian Ocean basin. Dhows propelled by lateen sails crisscrossed the Arabian Sea, establishing flourishing mercantile settlements along the Swahili coast of East Africa, spanning from present-day Somalia southwards through Kenya, Tanzania, and the Zanzibar archipelago to northern Mozambique. These Western Asian traders regularly transported seed nuts of the local Indo-Atlantic coconut lineage directly from southern India and Sri Lanka to supply their newly established coastal enclaves. East Africa, a meeting place of two coconut worlds. By approximately AD 700, permanent Arab and Persian trading posts were well established in coastal settlements such as the Lamu archipelago on the northern Kenyan coast. Between the 8th and 11th centuries, as maritime commerce intensified, coconut cultivation expanded rapidly along the entire Swahili coast. By around AD 1000, extensive coconut groves were firmly established along the coastal plains of Kenya and Tanzania, providing oil, timber, and fresh water to the international crews of passing merchant fleets. This historical overlap of maritime trade routes transformed East Africa and its offshore islands into a grand genetic crossroads. In places like Madagascar, the Comoro Islands, Zanzibar, and the Swahili mainland, the Indo-Atlantic coconuts brought by Arab, Persian, and Indian traders encountered and growing side by side with the ancient Pacific-type coconuts introduced centuries earlier by Austronesian mariners. The result was extensive, spontaneous hybridization between the two distinct genetic lines. Modern DNA analyses of coconut stands across Madagascar, the Comoros, and coastal East Africa clearly reveal complex, mixed ancestries containing genetic markers from both the Pacific and Indo-Atlantic groups. These East African hybrid groves represent some of the most genetically diverse coconut populations found anywhere outside the ancestral Indo-Pacific homeland, serving as a biological document of intersecting human migrations. The arrival of the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean, triggered by Vasco da Gama's landmark voyage around the Cape of Good Hope in 1497 to 1499, systematically reinforced Indo-Atlantic coconut cultivation throughout the region. Portuguese colonial settlements in Mozambique and Goa, followed in later centuries by Omani Arab control over Zanzibar and the East African coastline during the 17th and 18th centuries, aggressively expanded commercial coconut farming and coir production across the western Indian Ocean rim. West Africa, a Portuguese introduction, 1498 to 1600. The botanical history of West Africa presents a complete contrast to that of the eastern coast of the continent. Unlike East Africa, which had been integrated into Indian Ocean trade networks for millennia, there is no convincing archaeological, historical, or genetic evidence to suggest that coconut palms were present along the Atlantic coastline of West Africa prior to the European Age of Discovery. The introduction of Cocos nucifera to West Africa was achieved entirely by Portuguese navigators who pioneered the direct sea routes around the southern tip of Africa during the late 15th century. Following Vasco da Gama's initial return from India in 1499, Portuguese fleets established a continuous maritime corridor connecting Lisbon with Mozambique, Goa, and Cochin. Portuguese captains routinely loaded resilient, heavy-yielding Indo-Atlantic seed nuts in southern India and Sri Lanka to serve as vital freshwater supplies during their long homeward voyages across the Atlantic. By the early decades of the 16th century, Portuguese sailors were deliberately planting these Indian seed nuts at strategic maritime stopovers along the West African coast. The volcanic archipelago of Cape Verde, settled by the Portuguese in the 1460s, quickly developed into a crucial agricultural staging post and redistribution center for tropical plants moving between the Indian Ocean, West Africa, and the Americas. From Cape Verde and the island of São Tomé, Portuguese traders systematically introduced Indo-Atlantic palms into coastal regions stretching from modern Angola and the Congo, northwards through the Gulf of Guinea to Casamance and Senegal. Because these introductions were drawn exclusively from Portuguese posts in India and Sri Lanka, West African coconut populations belong entirely to the Indo-Atlantic genetic lineage, showing no trace of Pacific ancestry. While these palms thrived in the humid tropical climate of West Africa, large-scale commercial plantations were developed much later. Historical documentation records extensive plantation farming in places like Badagry in present-day Nigeria during the 19th century, with European missionary accounts noting vast, thriving coconut groves established along the West African lagoons by 1876. Brazil, the first coconut colony in the New World. Brazil was the first country in the Americas to receive coconuts on a substantial scale. Following Vasco da Gama's successful voyage around the Cape of Good Hope in 1497 to 1499, Portugal established a vast maritime empire linking Lisbon with Goa, Cochin, Ceylon, Malacca, and after 1500 Brazil. When Pedro Álvares Cabral reached Brazil in April 1500, Portuguese authorities soon recognized that the country's long tropical coastline possessed environmental conditions remarkably similar to those of India's Malabar coast. Coconut palms therefore became one of the earliest useful tropical crops intentionally transferred from Asia to the New World. By the first decades of the 16th century, Portuguese ships were carrying coconuts from Goa, Cochin and Sri Lanka across the South Atlantic, often stopping at Cape Verde and other West African possessions before continuing to Brazil. Historical accounts indicate that coconuts were already being cultivated in northeastern Brazil by the 1540s and 1550s, particularly in Pernambuco and Bahia. These introductions belonged almost entirely to the Indo-Atlantic genetic lineage, reflecting their origins in southern India and Sri Lanka. The palms thrived in Brazil's humid coastal climate and spread rapidly along the Atlantic seaboard. Over subsequent centuries, they became deeply integrated into Brazilian agriculture, cuisine, and coastal landscapes. Today, Brazil ranks among the world's largest coconut producers, with extensive plantations stretching from Maranhão and Ceará southwards to Espírito Santo. The Caribbean, from colonial experiment to plantation crop. The spread of coconuts throughout the Caribbean followed closely behind their establishment in Brazil. Unlike the Pacific coast of the Americas, there is no convincing archaeological or historical evidence that coconuts were present in the Caribbean before the arrival of Europeans. Spanish explorers reached the Caribbean in 1492, but coconuts were introduced only after regular transatlantic shipping had become established during the early 16th century. The Spanish transported coconuts from their possessions in the Philippines and, later, from colonies in the Americas, while the Portuguese contributed additional planting stock originating from India and Brazil. During the 16th and 17th centuries, coconut cultivation gradually spread throughout the Greater and Lesser Antilles, including Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and Trinidad. As British, French, Dutch, and Danish colonies expanded across the Caribbean during the 17th and 18th centuries, coconut palms became increasingly common around settlements, plantations, and coastal villages. Initially valued as a dependable source of fresh drinking water for ships, coconuts soon became an important food crop and source of oil, fiber, and timber. By the 19th century, commercial coconut plantations had developed in several Caribbean colonies, supplying copra and coconut oil to expanding European industries. Genetic analyses show that Caribbean coconuts overwhelmingly belong to the Indo-Atlantic lineage, closely resembling those found in coastal India, Sri Lanka, West Africa, and northeastern Brazil. This shared ancestry reflects the maritime roots of the Portuguese and Spanish empires rather than any pre-Columbian introduction. The Atlantic coast of North America. The expansion of the coconut palm into the subtropical margins of the Atlantic coast of North America represents the final northern frontier of the plant's distribution in the Western Hemisphere. The primary locus for this establishment was the Florida Peninsula, where climatic conditions along the southern coasts provided the warmth and humidity necessary for tropical palm survival. Similar to the Caribbean experience, there is no evidence of pre-Columbian coconut cultivation anywhere on the North American continent. The initial establishment of coconuts in Florida occurred during the Spanish colonial period, driven by maritime traffic passing through the Straits of Florida. Spanish vessels sailing from Caribbean ports like Havana frequently carried coconuts as living water stores, leading to occasional plantings around early coastal settlements such as St. Augustine and key military outposts. However, the widespread naturalization of coconuts along the Florida coastline was accelerated dramatically by a famous maritime accident in the late 19th century. In January 1878, the Spanish brigantine Providencia, bound from Havana to Barcelona with a cargo of over 20,000 coconuts, ran aground off the coast of present-day Palm Beach. Local residents salvaged the buoyant cargo and systematically planted thousands of washed-ashore seed nuts along the barrier islands and mainland shores. This massive planting event gave rise to the dense coconut groves that subsequently defined the landscape of South Florida, inspiring the naming of Palm Beach itself. Modern genetic testing confirms that Florida's established coconut populations belong predominantly to the Indo-Atlantic genetic lineage, directly matching the colonial populations of the Caribbean and West Africa. The Pacific coast of the Americas, a continuing historical debate. The presence of the coconut palm along the Pacific coast of Central and South America prior to modern global trade represents one of the most intriguing and fiercely contested questions in tropical historical botany and biogeography. When early Spanish explorers under Vasco Núñez de Balboa first reached the Pacific coast of the Isthmus of Panama in 1513, and when subsequent Spanish expeditions explored the Pacific shores of Costa Rica, Colombia, and Mexico, they encountered established groves of coconut palms growing along localized coastal stretches. The primary historical source for this observation comes from the Spanish chronicler Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo y Valdés, who in his monumental natural history published in the 1520s and 1530s, detailed seeing dense groves of native coconut palms along the Pacific coast of Panama. Oviedo specifically noted that these palms were already well known to local indigenous populations, who utilized them for food and water. The central debate among botanists, anthropologists, and historians revolves around precisely how these coconuts arrived on the Pacific shores of the Americas. Genetic analyses conducted on old-line Pacific American coconuts reveal a surprising scientific reality. These palms belong unambiguously to the Pacific genetic lineage, displaying close affinities to coconut cultivars found in the Philippines and Western Oceania, rather than the Indo-Atlantic coconuts carried by the Portuguese across the Atlantic basin. This discovery has led to two main competing scientific theories. The pre-Columbian Trans-Pacific hypothesis proposes that ancient Austronesian or Polynesian mariners transported Pacific seed coconuts across the immense distance of the open eastern Pacific Ocean, successfully landing on the South or Central American coastline centuries before the arrival of Europeans. Proponents of this view argue that the eastern Pacific Ocean currents are exceptionally challenging for passive coconut drifting, making deliberate human transport the most plausible explanation. This theory receives indirect support from broader archaeological and genetic evidence demonstrating pre-Columbian contacts between Oceania and South America, including the confirmed transfer of the sweet potato, Ipomoea batatas, from South America into East Polynesia around AD 1000, as well as chicken bones with Polynesian genetic markers recovered from pre-Columbian sites in Chile. The Manila Galleon hypothesis offers a post-contact explanation centered on the historic Spanish trade routes. In 1565, the navigator Andrés de Urdaneta established the tornaviaje or return route across the Pacific Ocean, initiating the famous Manila Galleon trade. For 2.5 centuries, between 1565 and 1815, massive Spanish galleons made annual round-trip voyages connecting Manila in the Philippines with the port of Acapulco on the Pacific coast of Mexico. These vessels carried enormous quantities of Asian trade goods, plants, seeds, and supplies, including living coconut palms used for fresh drinking water and shipboard nourishment. Proponents of this hypothesis argue that coconut seedlings transported aboard these Manila galleons were planted around Acapulco and subsequently spread northwards and southwards along the Pacific coast of Mexico, Central America, and Colombia via Spanish colonial coastwise shipping. The extraordinary genetic similarity between Pacific American coconuts and Philippine cultivars is entirely consistent with the Manila Galleon trade, yet it does not fully disprove the possibility of earlier, small-scale pre-Columbian introductions by Polynesian voyagers. Consequently, the precise timing and mechanism of the coconut's arrival on the Pacific shores of the Americas remains one of the most fascinating unresolved mysteries in historical botany. Human agency and the globalization of the coconut. When viewed across the full expanse of human history, the modern distribution of Cocos nucifera stands as a monument to human maritime mobility. While the biological traits of the coconut, its impermeable shell, fibrous protective husk, and internal store of nutrient-rich liquid, originally evolved to facilitate natural dispersal along island coastlines, these natural mechanisms were utterly incapable of establishing the palm across global oceanic barriers on their own. It was human agency that transformed a localized Indo-Pacific coastal tree into one of the most ubiquitous and vital economic plants in the tropical world. The globalization of the coconut occurred in 3 grand historical phases. First, the ancient Austronesian mariners navigating without metal tools or compasses carried Pacific-type coconuts eastward into the far reaches of remote Oceania and westward across 6,000 kilometers of open ocean to Madagascar, embedding the palm into the cultural and agricultural foundation of the Pacific and southwestern Indian Oceans. Second, Arab, Persian, and Indian Ocean traders integrated the coconut into the commercial networks of the northern Indian Ocean and East Africa, introducing Indo-Atlantic genetic lineages that intermingled with earlier Pacific introductions, creating vibrant hybrid populations across the Swahili coast. Third, the European Age of Discovery unleashed a massive reorganization of global plant geography. Portuguese caravels carried Indo-Atlantic coconuts from India around Africa to establish them in West Africa, Brazil, and the Atlantic Islands, while Spanish fleets spread them throughout the Caribbean and across the Pacific via the Manila galleons. In the 19th and 20th centuries, European industrial demand for copra, coconut oil, margarine, and industrial soap transformed traditional smallholder coconut groves into vast, highly organized plantation landscapes spanning East Africa, Southeast Asia, the Pacific, and the Americas. Conclusion: a living chronicle of maritime civilization. Today, the coconut palm is so thoroughly integrated into the visual identity, agriculture, folklore, and cuisine of tropical coastlines worldwide that local populations almost universally regard it as a native plant. Yet, as modern genetic research and historical inquiry have revealed, the global presence of Cocos nucifera is not an ancient static feature of natural ecology, but rather a dynamic historical artifact woven over thousands of years of human travel. Every coconut grove swaying along the beaches of East Africa, Brazil, the Caribbean, or the remote atolls of the Pacific represents a living botanical chronicle of exploration, trade, migration, and imperial ambition. The two great genetic lineages of the palm, along with the diverse hybrid zones where they overlap, map out the precise sea routes charted by Austronesian outriggers, Arab dhows, Portuguese caravels, and Spanish galleons. Far from being a simple gift of nature floating aimlessly upon the ocean currents, the coconut palm was carried across the seas by successive generations of mariners who recognized its supreme value for human survival. In spreading this extraordinary tree to every tropical shore capable of supporting its growth, these ancient navigators forever linked the continents, leaving behind a living legacy that continues to tell the epic story of humanity's connection to the sea.
Aslan Adnan, M.A., presents The Coconut's Giant Cousin, the remarkable Coco de Mer, Wednesday, 22 July 2026.
A worthy chapter in the story of coconuts. Among the palms that define the tropical world, the coconut, Cocos nucifera, reigns supreme for its extraordinary versatility, global distribution, and profound importance to human civilization. Few plants have contributed as much to food security, commerce, culture, and coastal livelihoods across the tropics. Yet hidden away on two small islands in the western Indian Ocean grows an equally remarkable, though far less familiar, member of the palm family, the Coco de Mer, Lodoicea maldivica, also known as the double coconut or sea coconut. Although it bears only a distant evolutionary relationship to the true coconut, the Coco de Mer is one of the most extraordinary palms on Earth. It produces the largest and heaviest seed in the entire plant kingdom, has one of the slowest reproductive cycles of any flowering plant, and is found naturally nowhere else except the Seychelles. Its bizarre appearance, mysterious history, and extraordinary biology have fascinated explorers, monarchs, botanists, and naturalists for centuries. Including the Coco de Mer in a comprehensive study of coconuts serves several important purposes. It highlights the astonishing diversity within the palm family. Ericaceae illustrates the peculiar pathways by which scientific knowledge develops and demonstrates how geographical isolation can produce spectacular evolutionary adaptations. Equally important, it reminds us that palms are far more diverse than their familiar tropical image suggests. The Coco de Mer is not merely a botanical curiosity. It is a living testament to the interplay of evolution, geology, ocean currents, folklore, and scientific discovery. The medieval mystery of the sea. Coconut. Long before Europeans discovered the Seychelles, enormous double-lobed nuts occasionally washed ashore on distant coastlines throughout the Indian Ocean, particularly in the Maldives, Sri Lanka, southern India, and occasionally East Africa. No one knew where they came from. Unlike ordinary coconuts, these immense seeds were unlike anything people had ever encountered. They were exceptionally heavy, smooth, perfectly symmetrical, and strikingly resembled the human pelvis or buttocks. Since no living tree producing them had ever been seen, an extraordinary mystery developed around their origin. Arab traders, Indian merchants, Chinese sailors, and Malay mariners all encountered the enigmatic fruits. As the nuts drifted across the Indian Ocean on complex current systems, stories spread that they originated from mysterious forests growing beneath the sea. According to medieval belief, vast underwater palm groves flourished on the ocean floor, hidden from human sight. Some legends place these forests near a gigantic whirlpool, known as the Navel of the Seas, from which the miraculous fruits supposedly emerged. The explanation seemed entirely reasonable to people of the time. The nuts appeared only after storms, and no corresponding palm tree had ever been observed on land. Since mature seeds usually sank, only old, decaying, and non-viable specimens eventually floated to the surface before washing ashore thousands of kilometers from their true home. The fruit's unusual anatomy only deepened its mystique. Its suggestive resemblance to human anatomy inspired associations with fertility, sexuality, abundance, and supernatural powers. In the Maldives, every nut that washed ashore automatically became the property of the Sultan. Private possession without royal permission could result in severe punishment, as these rare treasures were considered state property. Throughout Asia and Europe, Coco de Mer shells became highly prized collector's items. They were carved into ceremonial bowls, drinking vessels, and ornamental objects. Wealthy rulers believed they possessed magical properties, serving as antidotes against poison, medicines for numerous ailments, or powerful aphrodisiacs. Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire reportedly paid an enormous sum to acquire one, transforming it into an elaborate work of art. The French later named the mysterious fruit Coco de Mer, literally coconut of the sea, a name that perfectly captured centuries of maritime mystery. The curious mistake behind Lodoicea maldivica. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Coco de Mer is that its scientific name preserves an historical mistake. Because nearly all known specimens reached European naturalists through the Maldives, early botanists naturally assumed that the tree itself grew there. Without ever seeing a living specimen, Johann Friedrich Gmelin formally described the species in 1791 as Cocos maldivica. The assumption was entirely understandable. At the time, no European scientist knew of the palm forests hidden within the granitic islands of the Seychelles. The only evidence available consisted of mysterious nuts recovered from distant beaches. Even after the species was transferred into the separate monotypic genus Lodoicea, named either in honor of King Louis Fufft of France or possibly inspired by classical mythology, the specific epithet maldivica remained unchanged. Ironically, the species has never been native to the Maldives. Its true homeland was revealed only after French expeditions explored the Seychelles during the 18th century. In 1768, the expedition led by Marc-Joseph Marion Dufresne documented living populations growing naturally on Praslin Island. The centuries-old mystery was finally solved. The legendary sea coconut had never come from the Maldives at all. Yet the incorrect geographical reference survived. Under the International Code of Nomenclature for Algae, Fungi, and Plants, scientific names generally follow the principle of priority. Once a name has been validly published, it is normally retained unless exceptional circumstances justify conservation or rejection. Consequently, the misleading epithet maldivica remains permanently attached to a species that is endemic solely to the Seychelles. This curious taxonomic anomaly serves as a reminder that scientific knowledge develops incrementally. Names often preserve the history of discovery, including the misconceptions that preceded better evidence. Taxonomy and evolution. The Coco de Mer belongs to the family Ericaceae, one of the world's most diverse families of palms. Unlike the coconut, however, it occupies a very different branch of the palm evolutionary tree. It belongs to the subfamily Coryphoideae and the tribe Boracea, whereas the coconut belongs to the subfamily Ericoidea. Although both are palms, they diverged millions of years ago and are not each other's closest living relatives. Lodoicea is a monotypic genus containing only a single living species, Lodoicea maldivica. Its closest relatives include other members of the Boraceae, such as the Palmyra palm, Borassus flabellifer, the African fan palms, Borassus spp, and the down palms, Hyphene spp, rather than the coconut itself. The evolutionary history of the Coco de Mer reflects millions of years of isolation. The Seychelles are ancient granitic islands that became separated from the Indian subcontinent following the breakup of Gondwana. Their prolonged isolation created conditions favoring unique evolutionary pathways. The giant seed probably evolved as an adaptation to nutrient-poor island environments. By investing enormous quantities of stored energy into each seed, young seedlings are better able to establish themselves beneath dense forest canopies where light and nutrients are limited. This strategy sacrifices quantity for quality. Rather than producing numerous small seeds, the palm produces relatively few but exceptionally well-provisioned offspring. The species also exemplifies an extremely slow life history strategy. Individual trees may live for 6 to 8 centuries, grow slowly, reproduce infrequently, and depend upon remarkably stable forest ecosystems. Biology of a giant tense. Nearly every aspect of the Coco de Mer reflects biological gigantism. Mature trees typically reach heights of between 25 and 34 meters and possess enormous fan-shaped costopalmate leaves measuring up to 10 meters in length. The leaves rank among the largest produced by any palm species. The species is dioecious, meaning that individual trees are either male or female. Male trees produce spectacular catkin-like inflorescences that may exceed 1 meter in length and continue producing flowers for many years. Female trees bear the world's largest fruits. Each fruit commonly weighs between 15 and 30 kilograms, although exceptional specimens may exceed 45 kilograms. Within each fruit lies the heaviest known seed produced by any plant, often weighing 25 kilograms or more. The fruit's distinctive double-lobed form has invited endless comparisons with the human body. Its remarkable resemblance to female buttocks or the human pelvis has inspired centuries of folklore, artistic representation, and cultural symbolism. Everything about its reproductive cycle proceeds at an extraordinarily slow pace. Fruits require between 6 and 10 years to mature following pollination. After germination, seedlings may take 2 years before becoming fully established. Individual trees often require between 20 and 40 years, or even longer, before producing their first flowers. Such extraordinary slowness contributes both to the species' vulnerability and its longevity. In stable forest ecosystems, patience has become an evolutionary advantage. Comparing the Coco de Mer with the true coconut. Despite their superficial similarities, the Coco de Mer and the coconut represent two very different evolutionary strategies. The coconut is a supreme colonizer. Its buoyant fruits can survive prolonged journeys across oceans before germinating on distant shores. Combined with thousands of years of human cultivation, this ability has allowed Cocos nucifera to become one of the world's most widely distributed palms. The Coco de Mer has evolved in precisely the opposite direction. Its seeds are so heavy that they fall almost directly beneath the parent tree. Fresh fruits sink rather than float. Only after prolonged decay do empty shells become buoyant, by which time the seed is no longer capable of germination. Ocean dispersal, therefore, contributes nothing to reproduction. The coconut thrives along coastlines, disturbed habitats, and sandy beaches. The Coco de Mer flourishes within ancient inland palm forests, particularly the celebrated Vallée de Mai on Praslin, often described as one of the world's most remarkable palm ecosystems. Human relationships with the two species also differ profoundly. Every part of the coconut has practical value, from food and drink to fiber, timber, charcoal, oil, medicine, and construction materials. The Coco de Mer, by contrast, has historically been valued more for rarity than utility. Its shells became luxury objects, ceremonial vessels, diplomatic gifts, medicinal curiosities, and collectors' treasures rather than everyday commodities. Both palms have generated myths, but the Coco de Mer has inspired perhaps the richer folklore because of its extraordinary appearance, extreme rarity, and mysterious origins. Conservation status and protection. The Coco de Mer is classified as endangered on the IUCN Red List. Fewer than 10,000 mature trees remain in the wild, almost all confined to Praslin and Curious Islands in the Seychelles. Its restricted distribution makes it particularly vulnerable to habitat destruction, illegal harvesting, forest fires, invasive species, climate change, and changing rainfall patterns. Fortunately, most remaining natural populations occur within protected areas, including the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Vallée de Mai and the Curios Marine National Park. Strict legal protection governs the collection, sale, and export of seeds. International trade is carefully monitored under CITES, while Seychelles maintains rigorous national legislation controlling ownership and export permits. Conservation programs include ecological monitoring, habitat restoration, sustainable seed management, fire prevention, scientific research, and community participation. Although illegal poaching for the lucrative souvenir market remains an ongoing challenge, strengthened conservation efforts have stabilized several important populations. The survival of the Coco de Mer represents one of the world's most significant plant conservation successes, while simultaneously reminding us how vulnerable island endemics remain. Folklore, mythology, and human imagination. Few plants have inspired as much folklore as the Coco de Mer. In Seychellois tradition, stories claim that male and female trees came alive during violent tropical storms to consummate secret unions. Anyone who witnessed these nocturnal encounters risked blindness, madness, or death. Such tales helped explain the mysterious appearance of fruits while discouraging people from entering sacred forests. During the 19th century, General Charles George Gordon famously proposed that the Vallée de Mai represented the original biblical Garden of Eden. He even suggested that the coco de mer, rather than the apple, had been the true forbidden fruit. Throughout the Indian Ocean world, the nuts became enduring symbols of fertility, prosperity, longevity, medicine, and royal authority. Their rarity transformed them into diplomatic gifts exchanged between rulers and collectors. These legends reveal far more about humanity than about the tree itself. Faced with an unexplained natural phenomenon, people instinctively filled the gaps in knowledge with stories that reflected their fears, hopes, desires, and spiritual beliefs. From myth to science, and the lessons of nomenclature. The history of the coco de mer beautifully illustrates the relationship between mythology and science. The medieval belief in underwater forests was incorrect, yet it arose from careful observation of genuine events. Mysterious nuts did indeed emerge from the sea, carried by powerful ocean currents over vast distances. Science eventually solved the mystery through exploration, botanical investigation, and systematic observation. Yet even after the truth emerged, history left its permanent imprint in the scientific name Lodoicea maldivica. This enduring nomenclatural error reminds us that scientific knowledge is cumulative rather than instantaneous. Each generation builds upon earlier observations, correcting mistakes while preserving the historical record of discovery. Ironically, one of the world's most scientifically remarkable palms continues to bear a name commemorating a place where it has never naturally grown. Reflections on palms, evolution, and island life. The coco de mer deserves far more than a passing mention in any serious study of coconuts. Although it is not the coconut's closest living relative, it provides an illuminating contrast that deepens our understanding of palm evolution, island biogeography, and the extraordinary diversity within the family Ericaceae. Its immense seeds, exceptionally slow life cycle, ancient lineage, and restricted distribution illustrate how isolation can produce biological marvels found nowhere else on Earth. Equally compelling is the remarkable story of its discovery, in which maritime folklore, mistaken geography, scientific investigation, and botanical nomenclature became permanently intertwined. Today, the coco de mer stands as both a scientific treasure and a conservation icon. It reminds us that evolution often proceeds along unexpected pathways, that myths sometimes preserve kernels of truth, and that even scientific names can become enduring monuments to historical misunderstanding. Above all, the coco de mer demonstrates that palms are far more than useful tropical plants. They are living archives of geological history, evolutionary innovation, and human imagination. Strange, majestic, and singularly unforgettable, the coco de mer is unquestionably a story worthy of being told in full.